War Sovereign Soaring the Heavens audiobook by Kevin Chapter 4361. 4361, Supreme Demon 4361 Supreme Demon. I just arrived in the outer boundary. It's fated that you met me. Duan Ling Tian stared at the huge demon, who pounced over, unflinchingly. In the demon's eyes, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, but it was the same for him as well. Although Duan Ling Tian was not unrivaled among advanced supreme gods, there were only a few who could defeat him now. He was not any weaker than most of the top advanced supreme gods. He was only weaker than the strongest among the top advanced supreme gods, like his eldest senior sister, Huangfu Meng Yuan, whom even prime supreme rank forces were afraid of. The seven orifices exquisite sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand emitted an extremely fierce sword aura as the divine energy of an intermediate supreme god swept out. Although it seemed somewhat lacking compared to the divine energy of an advanced supreme god, its speed and power were not weak at all. Duan Ling Tian cast the law of space, causing a commotion, and the phenomenon that shone for 10,000 miles appeared. Indeed, it was a phenomenon of the law that shone for 10,000 miles. On the realm battlefield, phenomena of the laws could shine for 100,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles, and even 10 million miles. There was no phenomenon that shone for 10,000 miles. Outside of the God-defying world's realm battlefield, the phenomenon of the law that could shine for 10 million miles would only shine dimly for 10,000 miles in the outer boundary. The phenomenon of the law that shone for 100,000 miles on the realm battlefield only shone for 100 miles here. The phenomenon of the law that shines for 10,000 miles. The demon paled slightly when he saw the power of Duan Ling Tian's law of space. Although the power of the law he comprehended could also manifest a phenomenon that shone for 10,000 miles like Duan Ling Tian, he comprehended the law of water, unlike Duan Ling Tian, who comprehended the law of space. How could the law of water compare to the law of space, which was one of the four supreme laws? Fortunately, he's only an intermediate supreme god. Otherwise, I might not be able to defeat him today, the demon thought to himself, feeling lucky. Nonetheless, it remained vigilant. After all, for an intermediate supreme god to comprehend the law to this extent, it was clear that the other party was the best of the best. The demon knew that someone like Duan Ling Tian was no fool. As such, he could not help but wonder why Duan Ling Tian did not retreat but dared to approach it after witnessing its power. He also wondered if Duan Ling Tian chose to fight because Duan Ling Tian knew that it was impossible to escape. However, after a moment, the demon quickly dismissed this idea. No. His strongest law is the law of space. If he really wants to escape, he still has a slim chance even if he's in the sea. However, even if the chance is slim, why doesn't he grasp it? Isn't he going to try at all? Why did he choose to fight me when his death is guaranteed? I should be cautious. He might have other cards hidden up his sleeve. The demon continued to wonder inwardly. Could it be that he possesses the supreme divine energy? Then, a sneer appeared on its face as it continued thinking to itself. So what if he has the supreme divine energy? Does he think I don't have the supreme divine energy? There were also supreme powerhouses among members of the Sea clan. The overlords of the sea, like the demon, belonged to the clan and were loyal to the supreme powerhouses in the Sea clan. Usually, as long as one made a big contribution, one would be rewarded with some supreme divine energy. In the next moment, just as the demon predicted, Duan Ling Tian used the supreme divine energy. In fact, he only used it to lower the demon's guard. He knew that if he did not use the supreme divine energy, the demon would suspect him of having other cards up his sleeve. If he alarmed the demon, who knew if the demon would call for reinforcements from other demons in the sea. If more powerful demons joined the fight, he might be defeated. Before coming to the outer boundary, Duan Ling Tian had also heard the supreme powerhouse of the Xia clan say that demon supreme powerhouses were likely present where demons gathered. As such, he was even more cautious. When it comes closer, I'll use the supreme divine energy as well and kill him with the innate power of my clan. The demon thought to itself, devising a plan as it watched Duan Ling Tian flying over aggressively. Although Duan Ling Tian was an intermediate supreme god, the demon did not underestimate him. In the outer boundary, a moment of carelessness could result in death. After all, it had lived for many years and had seen too many tragedies and deaths which were caused by carelessness. It was determined not to let such a thing happen to him. Additionally, the demon naturally knew that many humans in the outer boundary possessed bloodline powers or the ability to form doppelgangers from the laws. All of them possessed extraordinary combat power. It was not sure if the human in front of him possessed bloodline power or the ability to form doppelgangers from the laws. In any case, it had decided to attack with all its might as soon as the human approached and kill the human with just one strike. Boom, boom, boom. The huge demon's strongest law was the law of water. The artifact in its hand thrummed, stirring up violent waves that rose to the sky. It was as though a storm had descended in the sea, and it had the power to destroy a city. Duan Ling Tian looked insignificant in front of the huge demon. It was as though he would be completely annihilated without a trace by the surging waves. Human, since you broke into my territory, it seems like you have a death wish, the big demon said as it rushed out as well. It used the supreme divine energy before a strange energy swept out of its body. As expected, upon seeing the demon's action, Duan Ling Tian knew that his speculations were right. Everything was within his expectations. He was also certain that the huge demon did not comprehend any of the four Tao's of heaven and earth. Otherwise, it would have already used it at this moment. Before coming to the outer boundary, the supreme powerhouse from the Xia clan advised him not to hold back in the outer boundary when he encountered an opponent. It did not matter even if the opponent was weaker than him. Otherwise, there was a possibility that he might die. In other words, he should use the strength of the lion even if the opponent was a rabbit. Human, show me your bloodline power or your doppelganger from your law, the demon bellowed. At the same time, a terrifying wave of attack swept over. The waves surged like flood beasts, intent on devouring Duan Ling Tian. Upon hearing the huge demon's words, Duan Ling Tian smiled indifferently and said, "As you wish." In the next moment, the doppelganger from the law of space shot out of Duan Ling Tian's body. Swoosh! When the doppelganger from the law of space appeared, Duan Ling Tian finally cast his sword Tao. The doppelganger seemed to be imbued with the sword Tao, becoming one with its sword as it fought the aggressive demon. When the huge demon saw Duan Ling Tian's doppelganger and the sword that seemed to be one charging toward it, its eyes widened and shone with fear. Weapon Tao. It's the weapon Tao. He comprehended the weapon Tao, one of the four Tao's of heaven and earth. No, impossible. How could a human intermediate supreme god comprehend such a powerful weapon Tao? Apart from fear, the demon felt shocked as well. It watched as its attack was easily negated by its opponent, which was one with the sword. It was not even a match for its opponent's doppelganger. No, impossible. The demon knew that the doppelganger was weaker than its true body. Even if the difference in strength was not much, it still meant that the true body was stronger. The doppelganger was already very strong, and the true body could only be stronger. If the doppelganger and the true body joined forces, was there any way it could survive? With this in mind, the huge demon grew extremely terrified. I must escape. Although the huge demon was violent and bloodthirsty, its intelligence was not inferior to that of humans. It knew that it was no match for Duan Ling Tian. If it continued to fight, it would be tantamount to seeking death. The huge demon decisively turned around and fled. Alas, Duan Ling Tian was faster than it. "Supreme Demon, help me!" The demon fled at top speed. It did not even dare to turn back. Although it was like a fish in water in the sea, and it comprehended the law of water, its opponent's extremely powerful law of space and speedy sword Dao terrified him and caused his heart to palpitate. The demon knew that Duan Ling Tian would catch up to it in about a dozen breaths at most. At that time, it would surely die. The human chasing me is an intermediate supreme god. He comprehended the law of space to the extent where it can manifest the phenomenon that shines for 10,000 miles. His sword Dao is above the fifth stage. Even in the outer boundary, the fifth stage of the sword Dao was very high. Even among advanced supreme gods, only those who stood at the top of the pyramid could comprehend the Dao to this stage. In fact, many powerhouses who claimed to be skilled in the sword did not even comprehend the sword Dao to the fifth stage. The demon did not hold back when it spoke. As such, it alarmed the demons in the surroundings. Even the other demons, who were overlords of the sea and were not weaker than the demon Duan Ling Tian was chasing, were slightly frightened. After all, based on the demon's description, they knew that Duan Ling Tian was comparable to a top advanced supreme god. As soon as such a person became an advanced supreme god, he or she would be the strongest among top advanced supreme gods. Retreat. I should leave this area so I won't be dragged down by that guy. How did Hu Kuei provoke such a powerful human being? It did not take long before the demons, ordinary ones and advanced supreme gods, left. At the same time, they sent out voice transmissions one after another. It was impossible for the supreme demon to hear the huge demon's loud cries. The other demons could only send voice transmissions to the messengers, who were advanced supreme gods, around the supreme demon to alert them to the presence of the human prodigy in the sea. Such a monstrous prodigy, once the supreme demon finds out about him, he'll definitely attack him. However, by the time the supreme demon finds out about him and makes a move, will he still be able to find the other guy? Humans aren't foolish. He'll definitely leave immediately after killing Hu Kuei. About a dozen breaths passed in just a blink of an eye. While the demons fled in all directions, Duan Ling Tian caught up with the huge demon and quickly killed the demon. I have to leave now. Duan Ling Tian collected the demon's artifact and ignored the demon's spatial ring after he killed the demon. Then, he quickly fled to land. He did not dare to stay a moment longer. Chapter 4362, 4362, Crimson Demon Ridge 4362, Crimson Demon Ridge. After arriving in the outer boundary, Duan Ling Tian easily killed the demon advanced supreme god he encountered. Although everything seemed calm after that, he knew it was only the calm before the storm. He could foresee that if he stayed after killing the demon, today would be his death anniversary. In the outer boundary, most demons aren't solitary creatures. They're usually in groups. The leaders of these demons are supreme powerhouses. Even if the leaders are not supreme powerhouses, they are at least top advanced supreme gods. Only a powerful demon can make these demons submit. Huge demons usually have more freedom, and if they did not live solitary lives, there'll inevitably be a more powerful demon that will avenge them if they die. Duan Ling Tian learned a lot of useful information from the supreme powerhouse of the Xia clan before he came to the outer boundary. For this reason, when he first appeared in the sea, he did not intend to provoke any huge demons in the sea. However, he did not expect that a huge demon would find him. In the end, he had no choice but to kill the other party. Although he should keep a low profile in the outer boundary, he needed to be strong as well when the time called for it. The rule of survival in the outer boundary was the same as the one in the God-defying world. The strong were revered and kill or be killed. I have to go to land. The huge demons and supreme demons from the Sea clan generally don't leave the sea recklessly. After all, they're not united. If they leave, they risk invasions in their territories. In the outer boundary, the stronger the demon beasts were, the better their territories would be. These places were usually fertile places that would give birth to precious resources. Moreover, most of these resources were reaching maturity and could be harvested soon. If the demons left, their territory would be defenseless. It was very likely that other demons would take advantage of the situation. However, these demons would not dare to rush in recklessly as well unless they were absolutely certain that the other party had left. Otherwise, they would be dead if the other party actually did not leave. Even if they plan to chase after me, they won't chase me for long, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself confidently. Just when Duan Ling Tian arrived on land, in the sea where he had just left, a figure suddenly appeared. It was a handsome and tall young man with a bewitching appearance. He wore a dark blue robe. He looked completely human, but two huge demons, looking as strong as a bull, with fierce faces, stood behind him. The handsome young man's eyes were narrowed as he looked at the figure that vanished to the shore. If Duan Ling Tian were still here, he would be able to sense that two huge demons with human-like figures were much stronger than the one he killed. "Lord Supreme Demon, do you plan to chase after him?" one of the huge demons asked respectfully. The young man shook his head. "It's useless to chase after him. He's entered the territory of the Crimson Demon Ridge. If I chase after him, the Crimson Demon Ridge won't just stand aside and do nothing. It's not worth it to offend the Crimson Demon for a human." After a pause, the young man smiled and continued to say, "Moreover, it's still unknown if that human kid will survive after entering the Crimson Demon Ridge. Although most of the beings in the Crimson Demon Ridge are human monks, they're just puppets of the Crimson Demon. That human kid is just an intermediate supreme god, but he already possesses such strength. The Crimson Demon definitely won't let go of this chance to obtain such a powerful puppet." The smile on the young man's face gradually disappeared as he continued to say, "That's good. Once he becomes a puppet, he won't be able to become a supreme powerhouse. To us, it's a good thing that the humans have one less talented supreme powerhouse. He's just an intermediate supreme god, but he's comprehended the law of space to the extent where it can manifest the phenomenon that shines for 10,000 miles. Not only that, but he also comprehended the sword Tao to such a high level. I can still sense the traces of his attack. What a terrifying person." After a moment, the young man turned around and left, followed by the two huge demons. Duan Ling Tian was naturally clueless. He had no idea that he had entered the Crimson Demon Ridge. He only knew that after leaving the sea and going on land, he was relatively safe. Nonetheless, even if the land was safer than the sea where he had killed a huge demon, he still did not let his guard down. As he moved forward, he kept a close watch on his surroundings. Unfortunately, Duan Ling Tian was unaware that he was being watched at this moment. At the same time, in a stone house behind a mountain that was not very tall, a mirror image from a formation was projected in the air. It showed Duan Ling Tian moving forward vigilantly. A group of people dressed in black stood in front of the mirror image. Apart from the leader of the group, all of their faces were expressionless, but their eyes shone with violence. All in all, they looked unsettling and creepy. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man dressed in black armor with blood chi lingering on his body. He said, "He dares to trespass into our Crimson Demon Ridge. He's quite bold, moreover. He's just an intermediate supreme god. Go, catch him and send him to the Centurion." After the middle-aged man finished speaking, his black armor extended up and over his head, forming a helmet. He looked like a dark knight. Swoosh! The Black Knight took the lead and flew out before the 10 people behind him followed suit. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. 11 figures flew in the air like black phantoms. The Dark Knight's cultivation base was in the realm of an advanced supreme god, and the 10 people behind him were all intermediate supreme gods who had stabilized their cultivation bases. Duan Ling Tian suddenly heard the sound of wind howling from behind him. When he came to a halt, he could hear the sound of the wind howling coming from the front, the left, and the right. It did not take long before he saw 4 groups of people coming at him from all 4 directions. It was not difficult for him to figure out that the 4 leaders of these 4 groups of people were those who were dressed in black armor. He could not see the other party's appearances since they were completely covered by the armor. He could only see 4 pairs of bloodthirsty gazes. 10 people stood behind each of the 4 leaders. These people, regardless of their gender and age, were expressionless, and their gazes were hostile and intimidating. Duan Ling Tian could tell that they were not normal. At this time, the leader of the group on Duan Ling Tian's left said loudly with a growl, "He's mine." Then, the leader led his people and rushed toward Duan Ling Tian. As soon as he attacked, he used all this strength as an advanced supreme god. His strength was slightly weaker compared to the demon that Duan Ling Tian encountered earlier. If he were to fight the demon, he might not even be able to withstand 3 moves from the demon. A scoff rang in the air before another group of people charged toward Duan Ling Tian as well before the 2 remaining groups followed suit. Duan Ling Tian frowned slightly. These people were organized and disciplined. He wondered if he had entered another party's territory. The outer boundary was vast, and many of the areas were occupied territories. I must leave as soon as I can. The strength of these 4 groups of people was only average. Duan Ling Tian could have killed all of them within a few breaths if he went all out. However, he did not intend to make a move against these people. If he killed them, it would bring bigger trouble. This place was different from the sea. When Duan Ling Tian was in the sea, he could see that the land was not far away, and he knew that the land was not the territory of the demons in the sea. As such, he had no qualms about killing the demon. All he had to do was leave the sea after he killed the demon, and he would be safe from the demons once he was on land. However, now that Duan Ling Tian was on land, the situation was different. He did not know how wide these people's territory spanned. If their territory was vast after he killed these people, he was bound to run into a stronger opponent. For this reason, he chose to flee instead of engaging in a battle with these people. Swoosh! In just a blink of an eye, Duan Ling Tian flew into the distance. It was not that he did not consider teleporting away, but there were many people among these 4 groups who also comprehended the law of space, and they had disrupted the space in the surroundings. When Duan Ling Tian moved, he quickly cast the law of space as well. In just a moment, the phenomenon of the law that shone for 10,000 miles appeared. Upon seeing this, 2 of the 4 leaders cried out in surprise. Is he the same person who manifested the phenomenon of the law of space that shone for 10,000 miles in the sea earlier? Seeing that Duan Ling Tian was an intermediate supreme god who comprehended the law of space, one of the 4 supreme laws, to the extent where it could manifest the phenomenon that shone for 10,000 miles, everyone naturally knew that he was a monstrous prodigy. The 4 leaders did not waste time and quickly sent out messages. When Duan Ling Tian discovered this, he had already left the range of the space that was disrupted. He quickly teleported away before casting the double teleportation profundity. I have to leave as quickly as possible, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. His expression was rather grim at this moment. After the 4 leaders discovered they could not stop him, they clearly sent a message out immediately. He naturally knew that they were likely notifying someone more powerful about him. In just a moment, a burst of thunderous laughter rang in the air, echoing in a large area. Then a voice said, "An intermediate supreme god who comprehended the law of space to the point where it can manifest the phenomenon that shines for 10,000 miles. Interesting, interesting. If we offer such a prodigy to Lord Crimson Demon, we'll be rewarded handsomely. Chapter 4363. 4363 Personal Demon Guard. 4363 Personal Demon Guard. The voice was so loud that it could be heard in Duan Ling Tian's original spot, and the distant place he had gone where he could no longer be seen by the four groups of people. Upon hearing the thunderous voice, the eyes of the four leaders dressed in black armor, otherwise known as decurions, who led people to besiege and kill Duan Ling Tian, lit up with fanaticism. Lord Centurion, the owner of the voice, was the four leaders' centurion. He was a top advanced supreme god. Even if 10 decurions joined forces, they still would not be able to defeat him. Under the Crimson Demon, there were only 8 centurions in the Crimson Demon Ridge. My strongest law is also the law of space. I'll play with you. As soon as the centurion's voice fell, Duan Ling Tian felt the space in surroundings was once again disrupted, preventing him from teleporting away. After discovering this, he did not linger and quickly flew away. Duan Ling Tian could sense that the other party was an advanced supreme god. Although the other party was possibly stronger than the demon in the sea, he was confident he could kill the party if he went all out. However, what would happen after he killed the other party? Was there a more powerful person? Was there a supreme powerhouse? Danger lurks everywhere in the outer boundary. It's best that I leave this territory as soon as possible. After confirming that this place was an occupied territory, Duan Ling Tian wanted nothing more than to leave this place. Unable to teleport, Duan Ling Tian continued to fly. As he flew, he said earnestly in a low voice, "Sir, I strayed into this place unintentionally. If I offended you, I hope you'll forgive me. I have no intention of making an enemy out of you. I only want to leave your territory now." A burst of thunderous laughter rang in the air again. "Everyone who comes here is a guest of ours. You should stay." The voice was getting closer and closer to Duan Ling Tian. At this time, Duan Ling Tian suddenly discovered a formation that he failed to notice before. The formation quickly blocked him and prevented him from leaving. The formation's power was like surging waves as it rolled toward him. Although its power was not strong and could not hurt him, it hindered his way forward. Duan Ling Tian's expression darkened immediately. He knew that the person who had spoken earlier controlled this formation. It was unlikely that the four leaders and their men whom he encountered earlier were capable of controlling the formation. Otherwise, they would have used the formation earlier to stop him from leaving. Moreover, the formation also contained spatial energy that prevented him from teleporting. If those people were capable of using the formation, they would have used the formation instead of relying on those who comprehended the law of space to disrupt the space. This person is obviously those people's superior, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. Not long after Duan Ling Tian was forced to stop by the formation, he saw a middle-aged man in black armor whose body emitted blood qi. He had a square jaw and pair of eyebrows that made him look fierce. He stared at Duan Ling Tian with a teasing smile as he said, "An intermediate supreme god like you is definitely the top prodigy among prodigies. Alas, in front of a powerful advanced supreme god, your strength is not enough." Subsequently, the middle-aged man flew toward Duan Ling Tian and cast his strongest law, which was the law of fire. In just an instant, flames surged into the sky, making him look like an invincible fire god. The divine energy of an advanced supreme god surged just as the phenomenon of the law that shone for 10,000 miles appeared. However, in the next moment, the range of the phenomenon grew, indicating that his comprehension of the law of fire was much more profound than Duan Ling Tian's comprehension of the law of space. Boom! The middle-aged man brought his weapon. It was a huge mace. It was longer than 2 meters, exceeding his height, and its width was more than 1.5 meters. The weapon did not look like it was made for an ordinary person, even if the person was 2 meters tall. The weapon looked more suited to be used by a 10-meter-tall giant. Although the mace was big, it did not seem unwieldy in the middle-aged man's hands. In fact, he wielded it nimbly. When he swung it, the flames in the sky surged again. It was as though countless flaming meteors were descending from the sky. When the middle-aged man swung the huge mace toward Duan Ling Tian, Duan Ling Tian clearly sensed that the huge mace was weaker than his 7 orifices exquisite sword. It seemed like it did not absorb as many fragments of prime divine artifacts as the 7 orifices exquisite sword did. In fact, it was even weaker than the weapon of the demon he encountered earlier. He's stronger than the huge demon, but his weapon is inferior to that of the huge demon, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. He was slightly puzzled. Generally, those who were more powerful would have better weapons. Duan Ling Tian was unaware that humans and demons were different. For demons, they could kill wantonly as long as they left their group, allowing them to obtain better weapons. Conversely, humans were more orderly. Although there were also humans who killed wantonly, not many people dared to do so. After all, they would become the public enemy. It would not be so bad if they were really powerful. Otherwise, they would be hunted down and killed in the end. Seeing the mace and its artifact soul falling down from the sky, Duan Ling Tian quickly summoned the 7 orifices exquisite sword soul. Huanger, the power from Duan Ling Tian's law of space surged, and he quickly used the sword Dao. Before using the sword Dao, there was quite a gap between his and his opponent's strength. However, with the sword Dao, not only did he close the gap, but he even surpassed the other party. Sword Dao. When the middle-aged man saw his attack being blocked and continuously pushed back by a sword that suddenly rose into the sky, his expression changed drastically. Following that, the blood chi lingering on his body surged as he used his bloodline power. Humans in the outer boundary either possessed bloodline powers or the ability to form doppelgangers. The middle-aged man clearly belonged to the former group. After using his bloodline power, the middle-aged man's attack grew a little stronger. However, he was still in a disadvantageous position and was completely suppressed by Duan Ling Tian. The middle-aged man thought that the purple-clad young man in front of him would take advantage of the situation to attack or even kill him, but he soon discovered that the other party had suddenly retreated. At the critical moment, when the 7-colored sword ray annihilated the middle-aged man's attack, the sword spun and sent him flying instead of cleaving him into 2. As he flew back, a hint of gratitude could be seen in his eyes that shone with fear. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian heard the middle-aged man say, "Thank you for showing mercy. If you want to leave this place, please go right. After crossing 13 hills, you'll no longer be in the Crimson Demon Ridge's territory. However, during the journey, you'll encounter a centurion. If you leave in the other directions, you'll encounter more than 2 centurions. If you follow my direction, the centurion you encounter will definitely make a move. However, if you don't kill him, he likely won't notify Lord Crimson Demon's personal demon guard immediately." The middle-aged man paused for a moment before he continued to say, "If the personal demon guard makes a move, he can activate all the formations in the Crimson Demon Ridge. Even if your strength is on par with his, you still won't be able to leave. Leave as far as you can. If you stay here, the life of a monstrous prodigy like you will be ruined." Since Duan Ling Tian spared the middle-aged man's life at the critical moment, the middle-aged man decided to remind Duan Ling Tian through voice transmission. After a few breaths, "I must contact Lord Crimson Demon's personal demon guard. Otherwise, I'll be punished for being irresponsible. If the Crimson Demon holds me accountable, even if he doesn't kill me, he'll skin me alive." Swoosh. The middle-aged man had not even finished speaking before Duan Ling Tian flew to the right, following the middle-aged man's direction. After flying for a while, he teleported away. Lord Crimson Demon. Based on his words, It seems like the Crimson Demon's personal demon guard is stronger than him. If that's the case, I'm afraid the personal demon guard isn't any weaker than the top advanced supreme gods in all of the god-defying world's realms of God's prime supreme rank forces. Then the Crimson Demon must be a supreme powerhouse. Duan Ling Tian was frightened when he thought about this. Then, when he recalled his time in the sea, he concluded that the Crimson Demon was much likely stronger than the most powerful demons in the sea, since the Crimson Demon dared to occupy the territory so close to the sea. After Duan Ling Tian left, the four groups of people, who surrounded Duan Ling Tian earlier, followed the middle-aged man's voice and finally arrived. When they arrived, they saw that the middle-aged man was injured and coughing up blood. The middle-aged man was clearly struggling to stay conscious. Lord Centurion, the four leaders' expressions changed immediately. They quickly took off the helmets on their heads, revealing the shocked expressions on their faces. It seemed like the purple-clad young man was stronger than their centurion. They could not help but wonder if he was truly just an intermediate supreme god. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, they heard the sounds of fighting in the right direction. Following that, they heard a stern voice say, "Centurions, I'm no match for this invader. Come and assist me quickly." The centurion Duan Ling Tian encountered reacted differently from the middle-aged centurion from earlier. This centurion was unwilling to let him go and was adamant on opposing him despite being no match for him. "Scram!" Duan Ling Tian cried out. His expression darkened when he sensed a few powerful auras surging in the distance, including the aura of the middle-aged man whom he defeated earlier. At the same time, a seven-colored sword ray shot out. Duan Ling Tian did not kill the centurion, but he dealt a heavy blow on the centurion, seriously injuring the centurion and knocking the centurion unconscious. "I have to leave Crimson Demon Ridge quickly." After finding out that the Crimson Demon Ridge was the territory of a supreme powerhouse, Duan Ling Tian wanted to leave even more. He fled into the distance, crossing hills after hills. According to the middle-aged man, he would leave the Crimson Demon Ridge after crossing 13 hills. Once he was out of the Crimson Demon Ridge, he would no longer have to worry about being restricted by the formations. However, just as the 13th hill appeared in Duan Ling Tian's sight, he suddenly sensed something and quickly moved back. Swoosh! Following that, a saber ray shot out from the front with overwhelming power. It seemed capable of splitting the sky and cleaving the earth. When the saber ray appeared, a phenomenon of the law that shone further than 10,000 miles appeared. Apart from that, Duan Ling Tian could also sense a trace of the saber Tao from the attack. He quickly extended his divine consciousness. After a moment, his expression changed drastically into one of fear. The phenomenon shines for 100,000 miles. In the outer boundary, when someone's law could manifest the phenomenon that shone for 100,000 miles, it meant that he or she had comprehended the law to the perfect form. If an advanced supreme god did not comprehend any of the four Taos of heaven and earth, or any special and powerful techniques, he or she would still be considered a top advanced supreme god if he or she comprehended a law to the perfect form. Master Kang. In the next moment, following the respect cries that rang in the air, a lightning bolt flashed and struck the ground not far from Duan Ling Tian. Subsequently, a tall and strong topless man who was 3 meters tall appeared. He stared at Duan Ling Tian with a bloodthirsty expression on his face. Is he the Crimson Demon's personal demon guard whom the middle-aged man mentioned earlier? Duan Ling Tian was horrified as he guessed the identity of the person in front of him. Chapter 4364, 4364, Prime Divine Artifact 4364, Prime Divine Artifact Boom. A terrifying and thunderous saber ray struck down. With just a strike, It directly split the mountain below in half and formed a seemingly bottomless ravine. The phenomenon that shines for 100,000 miles, Duan Ling Tian exclaimed in shock. In the outer boundary, the phenomenon that shone for 100,000 miles indicated that one's law had reached the perfect form. This was the lifelong pursuit of many supreme gods. There were many advanced supreme gods who had yet to comprehend their respective laws to the perfect form, even after they became supreme powerhouses. One could not rely on the law to become a supreme powerhouse, after all. Even if one comprehended the law to the highest level, which was the paramount stage, it was still impossible for one to become a supreme powerhouse through that alone. However, advanced supreme gods who had comprehended their respective laws to the paramount stage were undoubtedly the strongest and invincible among those below the realm of supreme powerhouses. However, advanced supreme gods who comprehended the laws to the paramount stage were rare even in the myriad worlds. As for the God-defying world, as far as Duan Ling Tian knew, there had only been one advanced supreme god who comprehended a law to the paramount stage in the past, and there was no one like that currently. Put aside the paramount stage, even advanced supreme gods who comprehended their respective laws to the perfect form were undoubtedly top advanced supreme gods. In the God-defying world, there were not many advanced supreme gods who had comprehended the law to the perfect form, and those who did were like overlords of an area. Duan Ling Tian stared at the 3-meter-tall man with lightning flashing around his body as he thought to himself. In the outer boundary, such a powerful advanced supreme god is just a personal demon guard. However, it's not surprising since the owner of Crimson Demon Ridge is a supreme powerhouse. Only a supreme powerhouse would have such a powerful subordinate. Duan Ling Tian's expression was solemn as he stared at the person in front of him. The other party was definitely a formidable opponent and was not much weaker than him. Moreover, who knew if the other party had any hidden means? There were countless powerhouses in the outer boundary, such as the advanced supreme god in front of Duan Ling Tian. Apart from the law he comprehended, who would dare to say he did not have other hidden means? He's the personal demon guard of a supreme powerhouse. He might have a prime divine artifact. Duan Ling Tian's eyes widened slightly when he thought about this. He was horrified by this realization. A prime divine artifact was undoubtedly much more powerful than the 7 orifices exquisite sword in Duan Ling Tian's possession. Although he had enough fragments of prime divine artifacts to transform the 7 orifices exquisite sword into a prime divine artifact, it would take time for the 7 orifices exquisite sword to complete the transformation. As of now, his 7 orifices exquisite sword was still in the process of transforming into a prime divine artifact. If he really possesses a prime divine artifact, even if I go all out, I might not be able to defeat him. Duan Ling Tian was still confident that he was on par with his opponent, but he was not sure he could defeat his opponent. After all, if the opponent possessed other astonishing means, the opponent would have been strong enough to break through into the realm of a supreme powerhouse. Timing was important when breaking through to the realm of supreme powerhouses. It did not necessarily mean that one could break through after comprehending the law to a certain level or accumulating one's divine energy to a certain level. Needless to say, after the breakthrough, one's strength would skyrocket. If a weaker advanced supreme god became a supreme powerhouse first before a powerful advanced supreme god, the powerful advanced supreme god would be easily crushed by the weaker advanced supreme god, who had become a supreme powerhouse, with just a finger. One's strength would rise multiple levels after becoming a supreme powerhouse. At the very least, one's strength would increase by more than 5 times. For this reason, even if the opponent was incredibly powerful, as long as the opponent was not a supreme powerhouse. Duan Ling Tian was confident he would be able to fight on even ground with the opponent, even if the opponent possessed a prime divine artifact. However, defeating his opponent was a different matter. He naturally wished he could defeat his opponent. He wanted to leave Crimson Demon Ridge as soon as he could. Although Duan Ling Tian himself did not know why, he felt uneasy in Crimson Demon Ridge. Perhaps it was due to the four groups, 2 centurions, and the personal demon guard he encountered. All these people did not seem like ordinary humans. They bore a little resemblance to the Devil Dao cultivators he met in the God-defying world's Devata realms. All in all, they looked strange. Duan Ling Tian looked at the 3-meter-tall giant staring at him with battle intent as he slightly cupped his fists together and said, "Senior, I have no intention of making an enemy out of you. I'm actually preparing to leave now." Faced with Duan Ling Tian's earnest words, the 3-meter-tall giant grinned sinisterly and said, "So what? Since you came to our Crimson Demon Ridge, you should just stay. Our Lord will definitely be willing to accept a prodigy like you as his personal demon guard if you stay. When you break through into the realm of advanced supreme gods, you don't even need to stabilize your cultivation base, but your strength won't be any weaker than mine. Letter 1 D627, letter 1 D5FF, letter 1 D6AT, letter 1 D4CC, letter 1 D5F2, letter 1 D483, letter 1 D45B, letter 1 D490, Cyrillic letter 475, letter 1 D5F2, letter 1 D48D. Calm when the 3-meter-tall giant spoke. A hint of shock flashed in the depths of his eyes. After all, the intermediate supreme god in front of him not only comprehended the law of space to a high level, but he also comprehended the sword Tao to a high level. He had a strong feeling that when the other party became an advanced supremer god, the other party would definitely become a supreme powerhouse after the other party cultivated enough. With this thought in mind, the giant's eyes flashed with a hint of envy. He knew that he would never become a supreme powerhouse in his life. Even if he comprehended the 4 Taos of heaven and earth, or had the means to become a supreme powerhouse, he would always be that person's personal demon guard. It was impossible for him to become a supreme powerhouse unless that person died. His eyes flashed with a hint of despair and complexity when his thoughts drifted to that person. The personal demon guard knew that it was unlikely for that person to die. That person was not just astonishingly powerful, but that person also possessed incredible life-saving means. He had once heard from that person that 2 powerful supreme powerhouses, who were stronger than that person, joined forces to deal with that person, but that person managed to escape from the 2 supreme powerhouses. He did not know if that person was just bragging, but based on his understanding of that person was unlikely to brag to him, who was just a personal demon guard. If I managed to capture this prodigy and offer him to the Lord, he might be satisfied and be willing to grant me my freedom after a certain number of years have passed. After all, there was such a precedent in the past with his previous personal demon guards. When this thought appeared in the giant's mind, his eyes lit up immediately with hope, desire, and expectations. At this time, the giant finally noticed that the purple-clad young man in front of him was making a move to leave. He quickly returned to his senses and attacked as fast as lightning. Swoosh! A terrifying and thunderous saber ray shot out in the direction where the giant pointed his long saber, stopping Duan Ling Tian, who was about to bypass the giant. After Duan Ling Tian narrowly dodged the saber ray, his gaze landed on the long saber in the giant's hand. It's really a prime divine artifact. The long saber looked unassuming, and it did not have any soul aura. Clearly, it was a prime divine artifact without a soul. However, even without a soul, It was definitely more powerful than the 7 orifices exquisite sword by more than one level. Chapter 4365, 4365 Crimson Demon. The Supreme Powerhouse. 4365 Crimson Demon. The Supreme Powerhouse, the long saber including the handle, was about 5 feet long, and its entire body was dark blue. It was hard to tell what it was forged from, but it looked ordinary. However, the lightning bolts in the surroundings rushed into the seemingly ordinary and unadorned saber. It exuded an oppressive aura that was nothing like the aura of a prominent divine artifact. The aura not only made Duan Ling Tian feel slightly suffocated, but it also made his soul feel a sense of oppression. It was as though the aura contained some terrifying power. Prime divine artifacts are the weapons of supreme powerhouses. Even in the hands of advanced supreme gods, they're still terrifyingly powerful. Back in the god-defying world, Duan Ling Tian had heard about the horrifying powers of prime divine artifacts many times. He naturally knew that prime divine artifacts were peerless weapons. However, possessing a peerless weapon did not make one peerless. Nonetheless, between two people with equal strength, the person in possession of a prime divine artifact could easily crush the other person. He's the personal demon guard of the owner of Crimson Demon Ridge, a powerful supreme powerhouse. He even brought out his prime divine artifact. He's clearly determined to stop me from leaving. I'm no match for a supreme powerhouse at all. I have to leave this place as soon as possible. Even if he has a prime divine artifact, I won't let him stop me from leaving. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself as his gaze turned icy. Even if the other party was a top advanced supreme god, had comprehended the law to the perfect form, and possessed a prime divine artifact, Duan Ling Tian was determined not to let the other party stop him. Swoosh! In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian attacked as well. 7-colored sword rays shone brilliantly as he cast his sword Dao and his law of space without holding back. At the same time, his doppelganger from the law of space appeared as well. I just want to leave, Duan Ling Tian said tonelessly as he strode in the air with large steps. He waved his 7 orifices exquisite sword in his hand, and the beautiful and magnificent 7-colored sword rays fell from the 9 heavens. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian's doppelganger from the law of space charged toward the opponent. Come at me. The giant's eyes brightened when he saw Duan Ling Tian attacking. He had been waiting for this moment after he prevented Duan Ling Tian from leaving. He wanted to see how strong the seemingly peerless prodigy among intermediate supreme gods in front of him was. When the saber rays and the sword rays collided, the giant was shocked, and he did not recover his senses for a long time. From the collision, he discovered that even if he had comprehended the law of thunder to the perfect form and possessed the prime divine artifact, he did not have the upper hand at all when faced with the intermediate supreme god in front of him. Although Duan Ling Tian was just an intermediate supreme god, his comprehension of the law of space was close to the perfect form. Moreover, his prominent divine artifact had fused with multiple fragments of prime divine artifacts. Duan Ling Tian was clearly inferior to the giant in every aspect such as cultivation base, comprehension of the law, and weapons. How could the giant not be shocked when he discovered that Duan Ling Tian was able to fight on even ground with him just by relying on his law of space's doppelganger and sword Dao? For a moment, he wondered if Duan Ling Tian was truly just an intermediate supreme god. If he's an advanced supreme god or close to becoming an advanced supreme god, even if I use my bloodline power, I'm afraid I still won't be a match for him, the giant thought to himself. He felt fortunate that Duan Ling Tian was indeed just an intermediate supreme god. Following that, just as he was about to use his bloodline power, his expression changed drastically as he exclaimed, "How's this possible?" Duan Ling Tian, who was on par with the giant, suddenly surged with power and fought the giant off. When he retreated, the 7 orifices exquisite sword in his hand seemed to change as he cast the law. A sword ray shot out into the air, causing the surroundings to freeze for a moment. In the next moment, the giant saw the purple-clad Duan Ling Tian moving at lightning speed toward the border of Crimson Demon Ridge, clearly intending to leave. The law of time. His law of time is actually stronger than his law of space. Duan Ling Tian had caught the giant off guard by using his law of time to restrain the giant. The giant could only watch as Duan Ling Tian fled from Crimson Demon Ridge. It's useless. The giant knew that he would not be able to catch up to Duan Ling Tian now. However, strangely, the corners of his lips curled up into a smile. In the next moment, just as Duan Ling Tian was about to leave Crimson Demon Ridge, a solid crystal barrier rose up, blocking his way. At this moment, the giant also regained his mobility, finally getting rid of the restriction from the law of time. Then, he quickly caught up to Duan Ling Tian, who was trying to break the barrier but was unable to do so in a short time. Duan Ling Tian's expression was extremely dark at this moment. The formation that the giant activated in Crimson Demon Ridge was extremely powerful. Clearly, the 2 centurions he encountered before were unable to activate this formation. Otherwise, the duo would have activated it long ago to stop him. What a monstrous prodigy, the giant thought to himself as he stared at Duan Ling Tian's back in shock and disbelief. Duan Ling Tian was just an intermediate supreme god, but his law of space was close to the perfect form. Most shockingly, his law of time was even closer to the perfect form. It seemed like it was on the verge of achieving the perfect form. Once again, the giant wondered if Duan Ling Tian was just an intermediate supreme god. Meanwhile, the centurions of Crimson Demon Ridge, who had arrived a while ago and witnessed Duan Ling Tian fighting on even ground with the giant, wore horrified expressions on their faces when they saw Duan Ling Tian changing his law to restrain the giant. This intermediate supreme god is too strong, right? If he had attacked with all his might earlier, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to last one breath. He's too strong. His vital energy is incredibly strong as well. It seems like he's not very old. Where did such a prodigy come from? Why did he come to our Crimson Demon Ridge? It won't be easy for such a prodigy to leave after coming here. At the very least, Lord Wu Kang won't just watch him leave. That's only natural. Didn't you see Lord Wu Kang using the highest authority he was granted to activate the formation barrier? The barrier is strong enough to stop everyone under the realm of supreme powerhouses. As long as he's not a supreme powerhouse, the formation will be able to keep him here until Lord Crimson Demon arrives. Lord Crimson Demon should have sensed the attacks on the barrier by now. I think he should arrive soon, right? Once Lord Crimson Demon arrives, he'll be at the end of his rope. A hint of pity could be seen on the centurions' faces when they looked at Duan Ling Tian. It was a pity that such a monstrous prodigy would become the puppet of the Crimson Demon in Crimson Demon Ridge just like them. Once he became a puppet, his soul would be bound. In order to break the binding, he had to be a supreme powerhouse. Alas, the binding restricted one from becoming a supreme powerhouse. At this moment, the expression of Duan Ling Tian, who was still attacking the barrier, changed when he overheard the centurion's conversation. Attacking the barrier will alert the supreme powerhouse of the Crimson Demon Ridge. Suddenly, Wu Kang, the gigantic personal demon guard of the Crimson Demon Ridge's supreme powerhouse who had been chasing Duan Ling Tian, suddenly bowed respectfully and said, "Welcome, Lord Crimson Demon." In the next moment, blood-red light flashed before a figure appeared in front of Duan Ling Tian and the others. The figure belonged to a burly young man who was about 1.8 meters dressed in blood-red armor. He had an extraordinarily handsome face and looked somewhat harmless if not for the sinister smile on his face. Following Wu Kang, the centurions of Crimson Demon Ridge present on the scene quickly bowed and greeted the young man dressed in blood-red armor. However, unlike Wu Kang, who looked at the young man, all of them lowered their heads, unable to meet the young man's gaze. An intermediate supreme god. The young man dressed in blood-red armor murmured to himself, ignoring the others who greeted him respectfully. He stared at Duan Ling Tian with narrowed eyes as though he was sensing something. After a few breaths passed, a surprised expression and a smile appeared on his face. A hint of excitement could also be seen in the depths of his eyes. This intermediate supreme god actually comprehended the law of time and the law of space to such an extent. The young man thought to himself as his eyes flashed, inwardly surprised. Wu Kang even had to use the formation I created to stop him from leaving. It's really hard to believe that he's just an intermediate supreme god. At this time, Duan Ling Tian returned to his senses and looked at the young man who commanded such respect from Wu Kang before he cupped his fists together slightly and said, "Senior Crimson Demon, I have no intention of trespassing into Crimson Demon Ridge. I came here by accident and I was planning to leave immediately. Senior Crimson Demon, I hope you'll allow me to leave." Based on the words of the centurions, Duan Ling Tian could tell the supreme powerhouse in front of him was not a kind person, but he still hoped to reason with the other party. After all, faced with a supreme powerhouse, even if he went all out, he was no different from an insignificant ant. Under such circumstances, he could use other means to leave. Duan Ling Tian knew that if he became the puppet of the Crimson Demon, his path to becoming a supreme powerhouse would come to an end. To him, that was not different from dying. The Crimson Demon ignored Duan Ling Tian. Instead, he glanced at Wu Kang and said indifferently, "Useless trash. You can't even stop an intermediate supreme god and had to activate the formation using the highest authority I granted you before being able to stop him from leaving. My lord, please calm down." After hearing the young man's words, the expression of Wu Kang, who was domineering previously, changed drastically. He hastily kneeled in the air and kowtowed. His entire body trembled as he said, "It's my incompetence that gave him a chance to escape. Please forgive me, my lord." Wu Kang felt extremely regretful at this moment. He should have used his bloodline power immediately to overwhelm his opponent earlier. At that time, the opponent would not have a chance to change his law and catch him off guard. Chapter 4366. 4366 Condition. 4366 Condition. No one knew the Crimson Demon as well as his personal demon guard, Wu Kang. In the past, Wu Kang had witnessed the supreme powerhouse kill another personal demon guard, because the personal demon guard failed to carry out the supreme powerhouse's order. One had to know that the personal demon guard had been following the supreme powerhouse for tens of thousands of years, and was the supreme powerhouse's right-hand man. As such, it was only natural that he began to panic when he heard the supreme powerhouse's icy words. He might be a top advanced supreme god, far stronger than most advanced supreme gods, but he was no different from an ant in front of a supreme powerhouse. He shuddered when he recalled how that now-dead personal demon guard was killed with just a strike despite defending with all his might. This is the might of a supreme powerhouse. Duan Ling Tian watched in a trance as Wu Kang, a top advanced supreme god, kneeled and pleaded for his life. He could not help but feel sorry for Wu Kang. Wu Kang was rather powerful, and if Wu Kang had used his bloodline power or doppelgangers earlier, he might not have been able to escape Wu Kang without using the divine tree of life, or the 5 divine elements in his little world, even if his sword Dao was at a high level. Duan Ling Tian had calculated everything earlier. If he had used his law of time and both his doppelgangers from the law of time and the law of space, he would only be on par with Wu Kang at best. Perhaps he might have a chance of gaining the upper hand if he used the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements. When he was still in the God-defying world, the 5 divine elements managed to recover slightly after absorbing the vital energy and liquid of the divine fountain. Although they had yet to fully recover, it would not be a problem for him to borrow their powers. Seeing that such a powerful advanced supreme god was reduced to such a humble state in front of the supreme powerhouse, Duan Ling Tian could not help but feel slightly helpless. He prayed inwardly that the supreme powerhouse would be willing to let him go. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape today. After listening to Wu Kang's words, the supreme powerhouse known as the Crimson Devil scoffed coldly. The few centurions present on the scene held their breaths as they shifted their eyes from Wu Kang to Duan Ling Tian. Upon sensing the Crimson Demon's gaze on him, Duan Ling Tian cupped his fists together again and said, "Senior Crimson Demon, it's my fault for accidentally trespassing into your territory. Please forgive me." Duan Ling Tian knew he had to put aside his pride and lower himself in order to preserve his life. The supreme powerhouse was too strong. He was not alone. He had his family waiting for him, and Care was still waiting for him to rescue her. He had come to the outer boundary to become stronger. His ultimate goal was to become a supreme powerhouse, so he could force the supreme powerhouse who merged with Yun Qing Yan to release Care's soul. Even if he could not find Yun Qing Yan, as long as he became a supreme powerhouse, he was confident he would be able to find another way to save Care. Although the supreme powerhouses in the God-defying world were unable to help Care, perhaps, he could find one of the strongest supreme powerhouses in the myriad worlds to help her. He naturally knew there was a chance that they might refuse him, but he still had to try. Based on what he learned in the God-defying world, he knew that his cultivation speed was unprecedented in the God-defying world. As such, there was a possibility that he would become one of the strongest supreme powerhouses in the future. The Xia clan's supreme powerhouse said that the few strongest supreme powerhouses in the myriad worlds might be able to rescue Care. However, even if the strongest supreme powerhouse in our God-defying world asks for help, it's unlikely for them to help me. With this thought in mind, Duan Ling Tian's eyes shone with determination. He had to leave Crimson Demon Ridge no matter what. "It's fine if you want to leave," the Crimson Demon said with a smile as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up upon hearing these words. On the other hand, Wu Kang, who was still kneeling with his head lowered, widened his eyes in disbelief. It was impossible for the Crimson Demon to let such a monstrous prodigy go. After all, such a prodigy would become the Crimson Demon's strongest subordinate. Similarly, the centurions looked at each other with expressions of disbelief on their faces as well. Since when did Lord Crimson Demon become so kind? Is the Lord letting him go due to his monstrous talent? Are you joking? You think the Lord is going to let him go due to his talent? The centurions also had a high status in Crimson Demon Ridge. As such, they were familiar with the Crimson Demon as well. They knew he was powerful and overbearing. Those who trespassed into the Crimson Demon Ridge were either killed or forced to become his puppets. It was only natural that they did not believe it when it seemed like he was willing to let Duan Ling Tian, an immensely talented intermediate supreme god, leave Crimson Demon Ridge. "Thank you, Senior," Duan Ling Tian said. He did not expect the Crimson Demon to be so amenable. Nonetheless, he knew that it would not be without conditions. It did not matter to him as long as he could leave this place. The Crimson Demon said indifferently, "It's too early for you to thank me. You may leave if you're able to fulfill a condition of mine. Otherwise, you'll have to stay and become my subordinate." Duan Ling Tian's expression turned solemn upon hearing these words. It was just as he had expected. There was a condition. Wu Kang and the Centaurians knew that it was impossible for the Crimson Demon to let Duan Ling Tian go. As such, the condition had to be something impossible. However, they had no idea why the Crimson Demon would give Duan Ling Tian false hope. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath before he asked, "Senior Crimson Devil, if I fulfill the condition, you'll let me leave Crimson Demon Ridge and I won't have to become your subordinate?" "Yes," the Crimson Demon nodded. "You won't go back on your words, will you?" Duan Ling Tian asked after mustering up his courage. His life was already on the line anyway. Moreover, he did not think his question was offensive. "I naturally won't go back on my words," the Crimson Demon said nonchalantly. "Then, may I know what's the condition?" Duan Ling Tian asked after inhaling deeply. No matter what the condition was, he had no choice but to accept it. Nothing mattered as long as he could leave Crimson Demon Ridge safely. Meanwhile, Wu Kang and the Centaurians held their breaths as they waited for the Crimson Demon to state his condition. They were also curious about the kind of condition the mighty Supreme Powerhouse came up with for Duan Ling Tian, even if they knew the condition was something that was impossible for Duan Ling Tian to fulfill. 4366 Condition Translator. Endel's Fantasy Translation Editor. Endel's Fantasy Translation. No one knew the Crimson Demon as well as his personal demon guard, Wu Kang. In the past, Wu Kang had witnessed the Supreme Powerhouse kill another personal demon guard, because the personal demon guard failed to carry out the Supreme Powerhouse's order. One had to know that the personal demon guard had been following the Supreme Powerhouse for tens of thousands of years, and was the Supreme Powerhouse's right-hand man. As such, it was only natural that he began to panic when he heard the Supreme Powerhouse's icy words. He might be a top advanced Supreme God, far stronger than most advanced Supreme Gods, but he was no different from an ant in front of a Supreme Powerhouse. He shuddered when he recalled how that now-dead personal demon guard was killed with just a strike despite defending with all his might. This is the might of a Supreme Powerhouse. Duan Ling Tian watched in a trance as Wu Kang, a top advanced Supreme God, kneeled and pleaded for his life. He could not help but feel sorry for Wu Kang. Wu Kang was rather powerful, and if Wu Kang had used his bloodline power or doppelgangers earlier, he might not have been able to escape Wu Kang without using the divine tree of life, or the 5 divine elements in his little world, even if his sword Dao was at a high level. Duan Ling Tian had calculated everything earlier. If he had used his law of time and both his doppelgangers from the law of time and the law of space, he would only be on par with Wu Kang at best. Perhaps he might have a chance of gaining the upper hand if he used the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements. When he was still in the God-defying world, the 5 divine elements managed to recover slightly after absorbing the vital energy and liquid of the divine fountain. Although they had yet to fully recover, it would not be a problem for him to borrow their powers. Seeing that such a powerful advanced Supreme God was reduced to such a humble state in front of the Supreme Powerhouse, Duan Ling Tian could not help but feel slightly helpless. He prayed inwardly that the Supreme Powerhouse would be willing to let him go. Otherwise, it would be extremely difficult for him to escape today. After listening to Wu Kang's words, the Supreme Powerhouse known as the Crimson Devil scoffed coldly. The few Centaurians present on the scene held their breaths as they shifted their eyes from Wu Kang to Duan Ling Tian. Upon sensing the Crimson Demon's gaze on him, Duan Ling Tian cupped his fists together again and said, "Senior Crimson Demon, it's my fault for accidentally trespassing into your territory. Please forgive me." Duan Ling Tian knew he had to put aside his pride and lower himself in order to preserve his life. The Supreme Powerhouse was too strong. He was not alone. He had his family waiting for him, and Care was still waiting for him to rescue her. He had come to the outer boundary to become stronger. His ultimate goal was to become a supreme powerhouse, so he could force the supreme powerhouse who merged with Yun Qing Yan to release Care's soul. Even if he could not find Yun Qing Yan, as long as he became a supreme powerhouse, he was confident he would be able to find another way to save Care. Although the supreme powerhouses in the God-defying world were unable to help Care, perhaps, he could find one of the strongest supreme powerhouses in the myriad worlds to help her. He naturally knew there was a chance that they might refuse him, but he still had to try. Based on what he learned in the God-defying world, he knew that his cultivation speed was unprecedented in the God-defying world. As such, there was a possibility that he would become one of the strongest supreme powerhouses in the future. The Xia clan's supreme powerhouse said that the few strongest supreme powerhouses in the myriad worlds might be able to rescue Care. However, even if the strongest supreme powerhouse in our God-defying world asks for help, it's unlikely for them to help me. With this thought in mind, Duan Ling Tian's eyes shone with determination. He had to leave Crimson Demon Ridge no matter what. "It's fine if you want to leave," the Crimson Demon said with a smile as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian's eyes lit up upon hearing these words. On the other hand, Wu Kang, who was still kneeling with his head lowered, widened his eyes in disbelief. It was impossible for the Crimson Demon to let such a monstrous prodigy go. After all, such a prodigy would become the Crimson Demon's strongest subordinate. Similarly, the Centurions looked at each other with expressions of disbelief on their faces as well. Since when did Lord Crimson Demon become so kind? Is the Lord letting him go due to his monstrous talent? Are you joking? You think the Lord is going to let him go due to his talent? The Centurions also had a high status in Crimson Demon Ridge. As such, they were familiar with the Crimson Demon as well. They knew he was powerful and overbearing. Those who trespassed into the Crimson Demon Ridge were either killed or forced to become his puppets. It was only natural that they did not believe it when it seemed like he was willing to let Duan Ling Tian, an immensely talented intermediate supreme god, leave Crimson Demon Ridge. "Thank you, Senior," Duan Ling Tian said. He did not expect the Crimson Demon to be so amenable. Nonetheless, he knew that it would not be without conditions. It did not matter to him as long as he could leave this place. The Crimson Demon said indifferently, "It's too early for you to thank me. You may leave if you're able to fulfill a condition of mine. Otherwise, you'll have to stay and become my subordinate." Duan Ling Tian's expression turned solemn upon hearing these words. It was just as he had expected. There was a condition. Wu Kang and the Centurions knew that it was impossible for the Crimson Demon to let Duan Ling Tian go. As such, the condition had to be something impossible. However, they had no idea why the Crimson Demon would give Duan Ling Tian false hope. Duan Ling Tian took a deep breath before he asked, "Senior Crimson Devil, if I fulfill the condition, you'll let me leave Crimson Demon Ridge and I won't have to become your subordinate?" "Yes," the Crimson Demon nodded. "You won't go back on your words, will you?" Duan Ling Tian asked after mustering up his courage. His life was already on the line anyway. Moreover, he did not think his question was offensive. "I naturally won't go back on my words," the Crimson Demon said nonchalantly. "Then, may I know what's the condition?" Duan Ling Tian asked after inhaling deeply. No matter what the condition was, he had no choice but to accept it. Nothing mattered as long as he could leave Crimson Demon Ridge safely. Meanwhile, Wu Kang and the Centurions held their breaths as they waited for the Crimson Demon to state his condition. They were also curious about the kind of condition the mighty supreme powerhouse came up with for Duan Ling Tian, even if they knew the condition was something that was impossible for Duan Ling Tian to fulfill. Chapter 4367 4367 A Life-or-Death Battle 4367 A life-or-death battle. Wu Kang and the Centurions were curious as to why their lord, the Crimson Demon, was giving Duan Ling Tian false hope. They did not believe the ruthless crimson demon would be so kind. The few centurions could not help but speculate inwardly. Perhaps he's bored. Maybe he's jealous that he wasn't as strong as the young man when he was at the young man's age. Perhaps that's why he wants to toy with the young man before making the young man his puppet. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian could not wait for the Crimson Demon to state his condition so he could fulfill it and leave Crimson Demon Ridge. I won't make you my puppet, and I'll allow you to leave Crimson Demon Ridge if you're able to kill someone, the Crimson Demon said. Wu Kang and the Centurions quickly guessed that the Crimson Demon must want Duan Ling Tian to kill an advanced supreme god comparable to Wu Kang. In Wu Kang's opinion, although Duan Ling Tian was strong, their strength was on par. It was impossible for them to kill one or the other. Who is it? Duan Ling Tian asked solemnly. It was against his principles to kill indiscriminately. However, this was his only way to escape from this supreme powerhouse and survive now. It would be over for him if he became the Crimson Demon's puppet. Kill him, the Crimson Demon said nonchalantly as he casually pointed to the side. Duan Ling Tian looked in the direction where the Crimson Demon pointed and found that the target was Wu Kang. Before Wu Kang regained his senses, the other Centurions finally confirmed that the Crimson Demon had no intention of letting Duan Ling Tian leave at all. After all, how was it possible for an intermediate supreme god to kill Wu Kang, the Crimson Demon's personal demon guard, who was a top advanced supreme god? When Wu Kang regained his senses, he instinctively looked at the Crimson Demon with a respectful expression. The Crimson Demon looked at Wu Kang and said slowly, "If you survive the battle with him, I'll forgive your mistake and let the matter go. If you die, it only proves that you're trash." Wu Kang's eyes brightened upon hearing the Crimson Demon's words. He hastily said, "Thank you, my lord." Wu Kang was obviously confident about his strength. He knew Duan Ling Tian was an intermediate supreme god and had a profound comprehension of the law of time and the law of space. Apart from that, he also knew about Duan Ling Tian's two doppelgangers from the law of time and the law of space and Duan Ling Tian's high attainment in the Sword Tao. With his bloodline power and prime divine artifact, he was on par with Duan Ling Tian. In Wu Kang's opinion, the Crimson Demon was giving him a way out. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian furrowed his brows upon hearing the Crimson Demon's words. Wu Kang was rather powerful after all. It was impossible for him to kill Wu Kang without borrowing the powers of the Divine Tree of Life and the 5 divine elements. Previously, he managed to gain the upper hand and escaped briefly because he managed to catch Wu Kang off guard. After all, Wu Kang was unaware of the extent of his strength, and most importantly, Wu Kang had yet to use his bloodline power. "Bring it on, boy," Wu Kang said as he rose to his feet in the air and faced Duan Ling Tian expressionlessly. Duan Ling Tian sighed as he turned to face Wu Kang and said, "I had no intention to kill you, but I'm left with no other choice." Wu Kang sneered. "Are you saying you're able to kill me? Do you think you're able to kill me just because you managed to gain a slight upper hand previously? What a joke! I didn't even go all out." As Wu Kang spoke, his divine energy, blood chi, and law of thunder began to brew and merge, emitting a powerful aura. Lightning bolts began to flash along the edge of his long saber, which was a prime divine artifact, causing the void around it to ripple. Upon seeing this, the Centurion began to discuss it among themselves through voice transmission. "Lord Kang is going all out. This is a life-or-death battle." Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian shook his head slightly. He did not dare to be rash during a life-or-death battle. Swoosh! Swoosh! Suddenly, 2 doppelgangers shot out from Duan Ling Tian's body. One of them was surrounded by a terrifying spatial energy. As for the other one, it looked ordinary, but the divine energy around it caused its surroundings to freeze and speed up in intervals. Even the wind was not spared from its divine energy. These two doppelgangers were from Duan Ling Tian's law of space and law of time. The two doppelgangers held a prominent divine sword with a complete soul, a weapon that was only second to prime divine artifacts, each in their hands. There were different grades among prominent divine artifacts, depending on how many fragments of prime divine artifacts they had absorbed. As for the prominent divine artifacts in Duan Ling Tian's doppelganger's hands, they had not absorbed any fragments of prime divine artifacts. After all, he only had enough fragments of prime divine artifacts for his 7 orifices exquisite sword. The two souls of the doppelgangers, prominent divine artifacts, were naturally envious of Huinger, but they did not dare to utter a word about it. After all, Huinger was the first to follow Duan Ling Tian among them. Duan Ling Tian pointed the 7 orifices exquisite sword at Wu Kang as he looked at Wu Kang indifferently and asked, "Do you think I'm unaware that you didn't go all out earlier? Perhaps you should ask yourself if I went all out earlier." Wu Kang's expression changed slightly. After a brief moment, he said with a scoff, "Are you trying to deceive me? Letter 1D65B, letter 1D45F, letter 1D626, letter 212F, letter 1D604, letter 1D657, NOV, letter 1D65A, letter 1D459. Calm in Wu Kang's opinion, it was impossible for Duan Ling Tian to have hidden his strength earlier. If Duan Ling Tian had more tricks up his sleeve, Duan Ling Tian would not have to use his law of time and his doppelganger from the law of space to hold him back and flee at the critical moment. On the contrary, the supreme powerhouse, the Crimson Demon, looked at Duan Ling Tian meaningfully as he thought to himself, "It seems like he still has hidden means." The Crimson Demon's eyes flashed with excitement when he thought about this. It seemed like the person he had been waiting for years had finally shown up. Chapter 4368, 4368, A True Monster, 4368, A True Monster, Trying to Deceive You. Duan Ling Tian smiled faintly upon hearing Wu Kang's words. He fused the law of time with his divine energy before he sent it out. The tip of the 7 orifices exquisite sword flashed as he brandished it, and charged toward Wu Kang along with his doppelgangers from the law of time and the law of space. The 3 of them surrounded Wu Kang in 3 different directions. Upon seeing this, Wu Kang scoffed. "How unnecessary! Boy, do you think I'd need to run away from you? I'll let you have a taste of what it's like when I unleash my full power." Wu Kang made a move as soon as his voice fell and lightning flashed in the sky. A terrifying saber ray shot out amidst the lightning bolts toward Duan Ling Tian. At this moment, with the lightning flashing around him brilliantly, he looked like a thunder god who had descended from heaven. Upon seeing this, the centurions looked at Wu Kang in awe. So this is the extent of Lord Kang's strength. This intermediate supreme god has underestimated Lord Kang. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian was fast approaching the domineering Wu Kang. He had opened his little world, informing the 5 divine elements that he planned to borrow the divine tree of life and their powers. He waved his 7 orifices exquisite sword, sending it out. He knew he would not be able to perfectly integrate the energy from the 5 divine elements and the divine tree of life with his divine energy. Nonetheless, they would still be able to assist him without conflicting with divine energy. "I really have no choice." Duan Ling Tian was aware of the risks of exposing the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements, but he truly had no choice at this moment. Fortunately, it would not be easy for another person to snatch the divine tree of life from him. Apart from that, his 5 divine elements were not in any life-threatening danger, as long as his opponent did not possess any 5 divine elements at the same or a higher level than his. His life was now in the hands of the supreme powerhouse, who was capable of killing him as easily as strangling a chicken. If he did not take this risk, the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements would also be eventually discovered by the Supreme Powerhouse if the Supreme Powerhouse killed him. Die. Duan Ling Tian attacked with the powers of the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements. His eyes shone with killing intent as he attacked. He was forced into this life-or-death battle simply because he accidentally trespassed into Crimson Demon Ridge. He did not even provoke anyone. Although he was insignificant in front of a supreme powerhouse, he was not afraid of facing an advanced supreme god. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two doppelgangers followed suit and attacked. Although they were inferior to Duan Ling Tian, coupled with the powers of the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements, they were able to raise his strength significantly. After exchanging a few blows, Duan Ling Tian managed to gain the upper hand. The divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements. Although the Crimson Demon knew that Duan Ling Tian still had hidden means, he was still shocked when he saw the different external energies that surged out when Duan Ling Tian attacked. In the outer boundary, it was not uncommon for a person of such caliber to possess a divine tree of life, and it was also not uncommon for them to possess one divine element. However, it was unheard of for someone to possess all 5 divine elements. There were some people who possessed more than one divine element, forcing the divine elements to coexist. However, these people all came to a bad end and died prematurely. He had never heard of any supreme gods in the myriad worlds who possessed more than 2 of the 5 divine elements. Rumor had it that it had something to do with a curse from the 5 divine elements to prevent supreme powerhouses from controlling more than 2 of the 5 divine elements. How could he not be shocked now that he encountered an intermediate supreme god who easily mobilized the powers of all 5 divine elements? The 5 divine elements are all arrogant to their bones. Perhaps they might compromise and agree to coexist in the same host when they're weak, but it's inevitable that they would rebel once they became strong. After all, they can search for other powerful and even more suitable hosts in the myriad worlds. The Crimson Demon was rather knowledgeable about the 5 divine elements. He had a close friend who became a supreme powerhouse through one of the 5 divine elements. All of his 5 divine elements are at a high level, but they're willing to follow him and coexist peacefully. This means that they acknowledge him. What a monster! The Crimson Demon exclaimed inwardly. At the same time, he was also delighted. He did not expect to encounter such a monstrous prodigy. He was a true monster. I've not heard of anyone in the realm of supreme gods in the myriad worlds who possesses more than 2 divine elements in this generation. However, it's not unprecedented in the myriad worlds. Those people were acknowledged by the divine elements because the divine elements felt like there was no one stronger than their hosts. Indeed, Duan Ling Tian was one of a kind in the myriad worlds. He was a true monster who was acknowledged by all 5 divine elements. It's my lucky day. Perhaps he might be able to make my dream come true. The Crimson Demon's eyes shone with anticipation as he looked at Duan Ling Tian. Meanwhile, although the Centurions agreed that Duan Ling Tian was extraordinary, none of them thought Duan Ling Tian was a match for Wu Kang. Perhaps he would be able to fight to a draw with Wu Kang, but it was impossible for him to kill Wu Kang. Their expressions changed like the weather as the battle progressed. Lightning bolts and sword rays clashed violently in the air. When Wu Kang brandished and struck with his saber, it felt as though heaven and earth were going to split. The Centurions inhaled sharply. They knew very well they would not be able to withstand even one strike from Wu Kang, but the purple-clad young man managed to block each and every strike from Wu Kang with his sword at lightning speed. They began to whisper fervently among themselves. I can't believe he has 2 doppelgangers. Heavens, how did he become so strong? Did you notice yet? There are different energies lingering on his sword. They're obviously not his energies, but he's able to use them perfectly. What kind of energy is that? One of them is filled with vitality. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the vital energy from a divine tree of life. That monster has a divine tree of life in his little world. The divine tree of life. It's said that if one possesses a complete divine tree of life, and the tree takes root in one's little world, one will definitely become a supreme powerhouse. It's not a surprise that a monster like him possesses a divine tree of life. I'm more curious about the other energy. It seemed like it belonged to a divine element, but something seems off. What do you mean? Instead of one kind of energy, it seemed more like 5 different kinds of energies from all 5 divine elements. However, how's that possible? Let alone 5, it's difficult enough for 2 divine elements to coexist peacefully in a host's body. Moreover, I don't think I've heard of any supreme god in the myriad worlds who possesses more than 2 divine elements. Meanwhile, Wu Kang was shocked. He truly did not expect Duan Ling Tian to have more hidden means. He thought to himself in disbelief, impossible. How's he able to control the powers of all 5 divine elements? Unlike the centurions, Wu Kang knew very well that the energies belonged to the 5 divine elements. Moreover, he could also sense that the 5 divine elements were all at high levels. He knew that the 5 divine elements must have acknowledged Duan Ling Tian and felt that they could not find a stronger host than Duan Ling Tian. After living for tens of thousands of years, it was only natural that he was knowledgeable. He even possesses the divine tree of life. Initially, Wu Kang could still fight equally with Duan Ling Tian. Alas, as the battle dragged on, he greatly exhausted his strength, while Duan Ling Tian continued to recover his energy effortlessly with the help of the divine tree of life. He knew he would not be able to keep up with Duan Ling Tian if the battle continued. Moreover, he was aware that Duan Ling Tian had yet to attack with all his might. After all, Duan Ling Tian's doppelgangers had yet to fully join forces with Duan Ling Tian. He knew without a doubt that he would die if the 3 of them joined forces. I can fight like this any longer. I should destroy his doppelgangers first. It'll affect him negatively, and I might even be able to kill him when he suffers the backlash from the destruction of his doppelgangers. With many years of combat experience, Wu Kang quickly came up with a new strategy. He did not carry out his plan immediately. Instead, he charged domineeringly toward Duan Ling Tian first. Swoosh! At this time, a saber ray descended from the sky and shot toward Duan Ling Tian. Chapter 4369, 4369, The Death of Wu Kang. 4369. The death of Wu Kang. Wu Kang was confident he could turn the tide despite being in a disadvantageous position. He had managed to do so twice in his life, when almost everyone thought he would die. Hence, he managed to keep his composure despite the unfavorable situation he was in at the moment. He'll definitely suffer the backlash if I destroy his doppelgangers. At that time, I'll be able to turn things around if I strike at the right time. I may even be able to kill him. Ha, you're still too green to be able to kill me, boy. Wu Kang charged at Duan Ling Tian domineeringly. Flames of fury danced in his eyes. He looked as though he had lost his mind in his desperate bid to win this battle. However, contrary to his appearance, he was in fact very calm. He was pretending to lose his cool to fool Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian did not doubt Wu Kang's act and thought that this was just Wu Kang's final struggle before dying. It seems like you have a death wish. I'm glad to grant you your wish. Duan Ling Tian did not know how strong the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements had become. Hence, before he even mobilized their powers, he had summoned his doppelgangers from the law of time and the law of space first. However, later, he discovered how strong the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements had become. He found that he could fight Wu Kang without the help of his doppelgangers. I'll summon my doppelgangers back first. Otherwise, it'll take some time for them to recover if they're injured. At the end of his thoughts, Duan Ling Tian teleported and reappeared in front of one of his doppelgangers before summoning it back into his body. Then, he teleported to his second doppelganger and did the same thing. Upon seeing this, Wu Kang's expression changed drastically. "How's this possible?" Wu Kang shuddered inwardly as he thought to himself. "Did he see through my strategy? That's impossible. His instincts are impeccable. Otherwise, why did he suddenly summon his doppelgangers back? After all, I'm attacking with all my might, but he still has the upper hand." Wu Kang fell into despair now that Duan Ling Tian foiled his plan. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian was puzzled when he saw Wu Kang's reaction. However, after a moment, his eyes widened imperceptibly when a thought flashed in his mind. Did he plan to destroy my doppelgangers? Duan Ling Tian's heart skipped a beat when he thought of this. He did not expect that he would unintentionally prevent a disaster. Although he would not die from it, it was inevitable that he would suffer some injuries if Wu Kang carried out his plan. Meanwhile, the Crimson Demon looked at Duan Ling Tian in shock as he wondered inwardly. Is it sheer luck, or did he see through Wu Kang's plan? F, letter 1 D52F, letter 1 D486, letter 1 D452, WE letter 1 D68B, letter 1 D4C3 Gujarati. Ushunya. Inus, new letter 1 D65A, letter 269. C0M. The Crimson Demon knew that Wu Kang would not lose his composure in the face of death. After all, Wu Kang had been his personal demon guard for many years. However, he did not realize Wu Kang's plan until he saw Wu Kang's reaction after Duan Ling Tian summoned his doppelgangers back. The doppelgangers are like a double-edged sword. If they're destroyed, the original body will suffer backlash to a certain degree for a short time. Although he's stronger than Wu Kang with the help of the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements, he's only a little stronger than Wu Kang. If Wu Kang manages to destroy even one of his doppelgangers, Wu Kang might have been able to turn things around as long as he strikes at the right time. The Crimson Demon suddenly felt reluctant to sacrifice Wu Kang. However, he quickly dismissed his thoughts and shifted his attention to Duan Ling Tian. Wu Kang will be suspicious of me if I save him now, and he might spoil my plans in the future. Oh well, his life in exchange for a monstrous prodigy is definitely worth it. The Crimson Demon thought to himself, feeling more at ease. Meanwhile, the Centaurians watched the battle in disbelief. They did not expect Wu Kang, who was mighty in their eyes and almost invincible among advanced supreme gods, would be suppressed by an intermediate supreme god. A few of them could not help but speculate among themselves. Where did this monstrous intermediate supreme god come from? Is he a prodigy from one of the strongest worlds? The Centaurians were not worried that Duan Ling Tian's formidable background would cause trouble to Crimson Demon Ridge. After all, the formation in Crimson Demon Ridge also cut off communication with the outside world. The Crimson Demon would never risk the safety of Crimson Demon Ridge. At this time, Duan Ling Tian looked at Wu Kang and said nonchalantly, "Nice strategy. Unfortunately, you missed your chance. I'm going to fight you without my doppelgangers." Previously, Duan Ling Tian had used his law of space when he summoned his doppelgangers back. Now, he switched his law of space for the law of time before he attacked again. He charged toward Wu Kang with the 7 orifices exquisite sword in his hand. Wu Kang hastily blocked Duan Ling Tian's attack. At this moment, after Duan Ling Tian foiled his plan, his fighting spirit had diminished by half. Dispirited, he could not withstand more than 10 blows from Duan Ling Tian and was eventually killed by Duan Ling Tian. Just like that, a top advanced supreme god who had comprehended the law of thunder to the perfect form perished. When Wu Kang collapsed to the ground, lightning flashed in the sky above Crimson Demon Ridge and thunder resounded in the sky. At the same time, a huge figure appeared in the sky before crumbling as well. It was similar to the phenomenon that appeared on the god-defying world's realm battlefield when a supreme god died. In fact, the phenomenon in the God-defying world was an imitation of the phenomenon in the outer boundary, and it was more exaggerated. If a powerhouse like Wu Kang died on the realm battlefield, the phenomenon would have been earth-shaking. On the contrary, in the outer boundary, only a dozen lightning bolts flashed in the sky when the huge figure appeared and collapsed. The phenomenon could only be seen from about 10 miles away. Lord Kang is dead. The centurions were in shock and disbelief as they watched the mighty Wu Kang die before their eyes. At the same time, the two centurions who fought Duan Ling Tian previously felt chills running up their spines. Fortunately, Duan Ling Tian had no intention of killing them earlier. Otherwise, they would definitely die. Senior. Duan Ling Tian turned to look at the master of Crimson Demon Ridge, a supreme powerhouse, after killing Wu Kang. Although he looked calm at the moment, in the depths of his heart, he was worried that the Crimson Demon would go back on his words. If the Crimson Demon went back on his words, everything he had done up until now would have been in vain. Thank you for listening to the story on KevinAudio.com Chapter 4370. 4370. Intercepted by the Crimson Demon. 4370. Intercepted by the Crimson Demon. It had been a long time since Duan Ling Tian had felt so powerless. After becoming an intermediate supreme god and stabilizing his cultivation base, no matter how strong an advanced supreme god was, he was confident he would be able to escape even if he was not a match for the other party. However, today, he met an existence much stronger than the most powerful advanced supreme god, a supreme powerhouse, an existence that stood at the peak of the myriad worlds. If the other party went back on his words, Duan Ling Tian knew there was nothing he could do and could only wait to be slaughtered. The master of Crimson Demon Ridge, the supreme powerhouse, saw through Duan Ling Tian's thoughts immediately. He smiled disdainfully and asked, "What? Are you afraid that I'll go back on my words?" "I don't dare," Duan Ling Tian said as he hurriedly shook his head. He naturally tried his best not to provoke the Crimson Demon. After all, who knew if his words could cause the Crimson Demon to go back on his words? At that time it would be a disaster. At this time he could only bow to the circumstances. If Duan Ling Tian was alone without any fetters, he would not have feared death. It was just like that during his previous life on earth. At that time, who in heaven could make him lower his head? However, in this life, Duan Ling Tian had many people he cared about. He also had to survive to save his wife, Care. All his struggles over the past 1,000 years were to see Care again. Who knew that when they reunited, she would be unconscious? Moreover, if he did not save her in time, her soul would scatter. While Duan Ling Tian was in the Xia clan, he had also heard about Care's struggles for the past 1,000 years from Xia Jai. He had also heard many things outside the clan about the difficulties she faced. He naturally understood that all her struggles were for their future. Meanwhile, after seeing Duan Ling Tian lowering himself, the corners of the Crimson Demon's lips curled up into a satisfied smile. So what if he's a monstrous prodigy? In front of me, he still has to lower his head. The Crimson Demon said indifferently, "Rest assured. Since I've given my word, I naturally won't go back on it. I won't keep you in Crimson Demon Ridge, nor will I turn you into one of my puppets. You can leave." As the Crimson Demon spoke, the formation, which Wu Kang activated previously, disappeared, revealing a path. Upon seeing this, Duan Ling Tian sighed in relief. Then, without wasting another moment, Duan Ling Tian cupped his fists together at the Crimson Demon and thanked the latter before he quickly cast the double teleportation profundity. He did not dare to stay for even a moment longer. Even after leaving Crimson Demon Ridge, Duan Ling Tian did not feel safe. He continued teleporting, not daring to stop at all. After all, if the other party changed his mind, the other party could still catch up to him. The most important thing now was for him to escape as far as possible so the other party would have difficulties catching up to him. In Crimson Demon Ridge, The centurions exchanged a look of disbelief and confusion after they saw the crimson demon let Duan Ling Tian go. They wondered when he became so kind. "Deal with the matter here before you leave," the crimson demon said as he glanced at the few centurions indifferently. Then, without saying another word, he vanished into thin air. "Yes, Lord Crimson Demon." The centurions wore fearful expressions on their faces when they responded to the crimson demon. After he left, they turned to look at the battle-torn place. When their eyes landed on Wu Kang's corpse, their expressions turned grim. Wu Kang, the Crimson Demon's personal demon guard, died just like that. Moreover, his death was orchestrated by the Crimson Demon himself. Wu Kang was someone the centurions looked up to. However, such a person in the Crimson Demon's eyes was an easily replaceable chess piece. They could only imagine what their position was like in the Crimson Demon's eyes. They were nothing more than insignificant pawns. Alas, there was nothing they could do. After all, they were the Crimson Demon's puppets. While cleaning up the wreckage, one of the centurions asked through voice transmission, "What do you think? Is Lord Crimson Demon really so nice as to let that prodigy leave?" "I think that's highly unlikely. Lord Crimson Demon likely has a plan," another centurion said. "Since a few years ago, Lord Crimson Demon has been looking for prodigies. He brought so many prodigies back. In the end, we didn't see them again. Who knows what happened to them?" I'm afraid only Lord Crimson Demon has the answer to that question. It seems like Lord Crimson Demon doesn't really intend to let that prodigy go. So you're saying that Lord Crimson Demon will go back on his word? I don't know for sure. After all, Lord Crimson Demon didn't go back on his words. He let that prodigy go and didn't turn him into a puppet. What the Lord does after that has nothing to do with his promise. Letter 1D5F3, Letter 1D493, E Letter 212F, Letter 1D604, Letter 1D626, Letter 1D68B, Letter 1D663, Letter FF4F, Letter 1D69F, Letter 1D5F2, Letter 269. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian, who had escaped far away from Crimson Demon Ridge but still showed no signs of stopping, suddenly saw a figure appear in front of him. His expression changed drastically. The person blocking his path was none other than the Crimson Demon, the master of Crimson Demon Ridge, a supreme powerhouse who was so powerful that he immediately put out Duan Ling Tian's fighting spirit. Duan Ling Tian did not turn around to flee. Instead, he continued to advance. He knew he had no chance of escaping faced with a supreme powerhouse like the Crimson Demon. Moreover, at this moment, he was not completely sure the Crimson Demon intended to go back on his words. After all, if the Crimson Demon intended to break his promise, the Crimson Demon could have done so back in Crimson Demon Ridge. In Duan Ling Tian's opinion, there was no reason for the Crimson Demon to put on a show in front of his puppets. When Duan Ling Tian came to a stop, he asked calmly, "Senior, what's the matter?" When the Crimson Demon saw Duan Ling Tian maintaining his composure, he smiled mockingly and said, "You're indeed quite courageous. Aren't you worried I came because I intend to break my promise?" Duan Ling Tian remained outwardly calm, but he sighed in relief inwardly. Based on the Crimson Demon's words, it seemed like the Crimson Demon was not going to break his promise. Then he replied, "Senior, if you'd intended to break your promise, you would have done so back in Crimson Demon Ridge. There's no need for you to allow me to leave Crimson Demon Ridge in the first place." The Crimson Demon looked at Duan Ling Tian meaningfully as he said, "You're right. I won't break my promise. However, you seem to have forgotten that I only promised not to turn you into a puppet and let you leave Crimson Demon Ridge. I didn't promise not to kill you." As soon as the Crimson Demon's voice fell, Duan Ling Tian felt a terrifying killing intent shrouding him from head to toe. It made him feel as though he was experiencing death. Chapter 4371. 4371. The Crimson Demon's Motives. 4371. The Crimson Demon's motives. Upon hearing the Crimson Demon's words, Duan Ling Tian's heart skipped a beat. However, he quickly regained his composure. This was because he knew that the Crimson Demon would have killed him earlier if the Crimson Demon truly wanted him dead. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian sighed inwardly. He naturally noticed the loophole in the Crimson Demon's words earlier, but he did not dare to say anything. In the end, he inhaled deeply before he raised his head to look at the Crimson Demon and say solemnly, "Senior, you could have killed me earlier as soon as I stepped foot out of Crimson Demon Ridge. May I ask what it is you need from me? I'll do my best to cooperate as long as it's within my capabilities." The Crimson Demon smiled. "How courageous. You're right. I have no intention of killing you. I should say that killing you doesn't benefit me at all. I'm here for a different matter. Rest assured. I won't make you stay in Crimson Demon Ridge and turn you into my puppet." Duan Ling Tian continued to look at the Crimson Demon even though his heart was racing in his chest. "There must be a catch, right, Senior?" Duan Ling Tian asked. He naturally knew the Crimson Demon did not come to him just to tell him these things. "That's right," the Crimson Demon said as he nodded. "I want to send you to a place. If you're able to survive, you can consider it a fortuitous encounter. You can refuse me, but the consequence is death." Duan Ling Tian's expression changed upon hearing the Crimson Demon's words. He naturally knew the Crimson Demon must have a reason for doing this. He took a deep breath before he asked, "Senior, may I know what kind of place you plan to send me to? What kind of fortuitous encounter is there?" "You'll find out when you're there," the Crimson Demon said unhurriedly. "It's an independent realm outside of the outer boundary. Don't even think of escaping once you're there. If I catch you trying to break the spatial barrier there to escape, I won't hesitate to kill you immediately. I trust a smart person like you won't take such risks, right?" Duan Ling Tian's expression darkened when he heard the Crimson Demon's words. "Tell me, what's your decision?" "You'll have to choose between death and going to that independent realm," the Crimson Demon said. "I'll go to the independent realm," Duan Ling Tian replied without any hesitation. Letter 1D453, letter 1D69B, letter 1D68T, letter 1D5F2, letter 1D66C, letter 212F, letter 1D623, letter 1D697, letter 1D630, new letter 1D41EL. The Crimson Demon smirked. "Excellent choice. You're a true prodigy." As soon as his voice fell, the Crimson Demon raised his hand. Duan Ling Tian felt the void shaking before he was overwhelmed by an energy that stopped him from mobilizing his divine energy, making him feel helpless. The power of a supreme powerhouse far exceeded his expectations. He thought to himself, the Crimson Demon might not be an ordinary supreme powerhouse. This was Duan Ling Tian's final thought before he lost consciousness. Meanwhile, the Crimson Demon looked at the unconscious Duan Ling Tian, who was suspended in midair by his energy with bright eyes. He muttered to himself, "I hope this boy will be able to survive my cultivation plan. He's the best candidate I've found so far." Subsequently, the Crimson Demon brought Duan Ling Tian with him and vanished into thin air. After a while, the Crimson Demon arrived in a remote valley near the Crimson Demon Ridge. He waved his air, and a spatial tear appeared in the void. "Now go, perhaps you're my last hope," the Crimson Demon murmured as he sent the unconscious Duan Ling Tian into the spatial tear. "Although many years have passed, I refuse to just wait and die." As soon as he finished speaking, the Crimson Demon's body trembled slightly. He held his chest and coughed out 2 mouthfuls of blood. The blood was quickly dissipated by his divine energy. If Duan Ling Tian had witnessed this, he would have been able to tell that the supreme powerhouse was seriously injured internally. Under normal circumstances, this level of injury had to be inflicted by a supreme powerhouse more powerful than the Crimson Demon, or by a few supreme powerhouses on par with the Crimson Demon. There was also a possibility that the injury was caused by another reason. Perhaps the Crimson Demon was injured in a highly dangerous place outside of the outer boundary. Or perhaps the Crimson Demon was injured by the time heavenly tribulation that happened once every 10,000 years. It was similar to the heavenly tribulations that cultivators under the realm of supreme powerhouses had to go through once every 1,000 years. Even supreme powerhouses could not avoid the heavenly tribulation. Needless to say, similar to the heavenly tribulation, the time heavenly tribulation would only get increasingly strong. Although supreme powerhouses were powerful, they would eventually succumb to the heavenly tribulation with the passage of time. No one knew the origins of the heavenly tribulation. They only knew it was unavoidable. In the God-defying world, all cultivators knew that they would have to undergo the heavenly tribulation after reaching a certain level. Many cultivators tried to escape the heavenly tribulation by fleeing to the lower realms. However, they all discovered that it was futile. They could not avoid the heavenly tribulation at all. Moreover, the strength of natives of realms of gods would be suppressed in the lower realms, lowering their chances of surviving the heavenly tribulation. With this, they stopped trying to escape to the lower realms. When Duan Ling Tian regained consciousness, he found himself in a desolate mountain range. It was extremely quiet, and there were no signs of life at all. Duan Ling Tian staggered slightly after rising to his feet. Where am I? The heaven and earth spirit energy here is much richer than the outer boundary. According to the Crimson Demon, this is an independent realm outside of the outer boundary, and that there are fortuitous encounters here. There's no doubt that this place is dangerous. I have to learn more about this place before searching for fortuitous encounters. There must be a catch somewhere. It's impossible for him to have no hidden motive for sending me here. Although this place might benefit me, there's no doubt it'll benefit him as well. Is he planning to use me to obtain some treasure here? Perhaps supreme powerhouses can't enter this place. Well, as long as I'm able to preserve my life, he can have whatever he wants. I have no choice but to become his errand boy since I'm no match for him. This is how the world is. Is this karma? Back on the realm battlefield, everyone had no choice but to follow my orders since they were no match for me. Duan Ling Tian was certain that the Crimson Demon wanted something from this place. He did not care about that. What he cared about was his life. I hope the Crimson Demon will stop pestering me after he gets what he wants. I hope he'll let me go. Duan Ling Tian kept his spirits high despite feeling a little uneasy. He flew into the air and surveyed his surroundings before he wandered aimlessly, searching for signs of human activities. However, as time passed, he still did not see any signs of life after traveling for 10,000 miles. He did not even see a single plant in this desolate independent realm. Chapter 4372, 4372, A Group of Prodigies in Captivity. 4372, A Group of Prodigies in Captivity. Exactly what kind of place is this? Panic began to creep in after Duan Ling Tian failed to find any signs of life in this unknown independent realm after wandering for a period of time. Is this place uninhabitable? However, what's the point of him sending me here if there's nothing here? Duan Ling Tian did not think that the Crimson Demon would send him here for no reason. It was impossible for the Crimson Demon to waste his time and energy sending him here just for entertainment. I'll find the end of this independent realm. After making up his mind, Duan Ling Tian continued to move again. Unknowingly, days turned into months and months turned into years during Duan Ling Tian's journey to find the end of the independent realm. When will I reach the end of this independent realm? Why do I feel like I'm back at the same place I started? Is this independent realm a sphere like Earth? In just a blink of an eye, 6 years had passed since Duan Ling Tian came to this independent realm. During this time, he still failed to sign any signs of life. Occasionally, thoughts of escaping from the independent realm would appear in his mind, but he quickly dismissed them when he recalled the Crimson Demon's warning. He did not doubt that the Crimson Demon would kill him immediately if he attempted to escape. "I'll have to soldier on." 6 years were nothing, and it could not wear down Duan Ling Tian's mind and determination. After a while, Duan Ling Tian suddenly stopped in his tracks when something dawned on him. His eyes brightened as he muttered to himself, "Wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. It's impossible for my divine energy to remain stagnant after 6 years. It's normal for ordinary intermediate supreme gods to not have any changes in their divine energy, but I'm different. I'm a little over 1,000 years old, so 6 years can be considered a long time to me. Even if I didn't cultivate, I should still make some progress in my cultivation. However, after 6 years, my cultivation base didn't move at all. This means that either this independent realm suppresses my cultivation base, or the 6 years I spent here is just an illusion. However, the heaven and earth spirit energy here is even richer than that of the outer boundary, and I'm able to absorb it. This only means that the 6 years I spent here are just an illusion. If so, not much time must have passed in reality." Duan Ling Tian's eyes brightened further at the end of his thoughts. He released his divine energy as he flew into the sky. Then he brought the 7 orifices exquisite sword out and brought it down. Slash! With just a thought, countless 7-colored sword rays shot out off the tip of the 7 orifices exquisite sword and slashed at the void. In just a moment the void cracked as the illusion broke. Following that, Duan Ling Tian heard the sounds of exclamations. "Heavens, this kid only spent 6 years in the illusion. 6 years? Are you joking? I was lost in the illusion for at least 100 years, and that was considered a short time." Before he broke the record, the shortest time someone spent in the illusory realm was 39 years, right? 39 years. That person was the first person to be sent here, so we don't know if he's telling the truth. You're right. However, he's really quite strong. The person in second place who spent 55 years in the illusory realm couldn't beat him until now. Isn't it normal for him to be stronger since he's much older? After all, among all of us, he's the only one above 10,000 years of age. After shattering the illusion, Duan Ling Tian's vision went dark briefly. When he returned to his senses, he discovered himself hovering in midair and shrouded by a glowing spherical barrier. He saw a mountain in the near distance. There was a stone platform at the peak of the mountain, and a group of men was gathered on the stone platform. After a quick look, he discovered that the men were very young based on the myriad world standards. They're under the age of 10,000 years old. Suddenly, the spherical barrier around Duan Ling Tian disappeared, and he began to plummet to the ground. He reacted quickly and hastily mobilized his divine energy to break the fall. At the same time, he sensed several different energies streaking toward him from the stone platform. They were the divine consciousness of a few men on the stone platform, advanced supreme gods, and a few intermediate supreme gods. Duan Ling Tian thought to himself after sensing the energies. He also found that the intermediate supreme gods had all stabilized their cultivation bases like him. Where am I? Duan Ling Tian was confused. Everything in the independent realm was out of his expectations. Is this also another illusion? Duan Ling Tian did not waste time. He soared high into the sky and extended his divine consciousness as he wielded the 7 orifices exquisite sword again. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Sword rays shot out in all directions as Duan Ling Tian tried to break what he thought was another illusion. However, this time nothing happened. At the same time, a few men laughed upon seeing this. I was just like him in the past. I thought this was an illusion as well. It's been a long time since we had a newbie in this place. I was just as foolish as him in the past. How nostalgic. His comprehension of the law of space is shockingly profound, even though he's just an intermediate supreme god. It's close to the perfect form. Has anyone sensed his age? He seems to be younger than all of us. To be precise, he's not even 2,000 years old. Not even 2,000 years old. Are you sure? Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian was shocked and confused when he overheard the men's conversation. If he was not in another illusion, were they sent here just like him? After taking a deep breath, Duan Ling Tian cupped his fists together at the group of men and asked, "Gentlemen, may I ask who sent you to this place?" Following that, an aloof young man dressed in black robes replied, "Who else could it be? We're being held captive by that crimson demon from the Crimson Demon Ridge." Chapter 4373, 4373, The Crimson Demon's True Motive. 4373, The Crimson Demon's True Motive. Brother, you were captured by the Crimson Demon as well, weren't you? This means that your innate talent is good and you're a prodigy. One of the men said to Duan Ling Tian with a smile. The Crimson Demon wouldn't bother with you if you're not a prodigy. What a pity. Even prodigies won't be able to do anything here. We're all in the same boat. I was acknowledged as one of the top 3 strongest young prodigies under the age of 10,000 in my world, and I come from one of the strongest second-tier worlds. You came at a bad time. The Crimson Demon has been targeting us more and more frequently in recent times. If I'm not mistaken, his time must be almost up. Then, one of the men said to another man, "Apart from the Chosen One, do you think he'll release the others?" "I don't think so." "Well, there's one way to preserve your life, and that is to become his puppet." Duan Ling Tian was shocked when he heard the men say that they were top prodigies below the age of 10,000, and that they were all captured by the Crimson Demon. What exactly does the Crimson Demon want? Did he really send me here to find some fortuitous encounter on his behalf? Duan Ling Tian began to question his own speculations about the Crimson Demon's motives after listening to the men trapped here. He cupped his fists slightly at the men again before he asked, "Gentlemen, do you know why the Crimson Demon sent us here?" Based on the men's conversation, it seemed like they had figured out the Crimson Demon's true motives. Alas, most of them ignored Duan Ling Tian's question and sighed, walking away. He's just another unlucky person. We're all unlucky to be trapped here, however. A few men stayed behind and looked at Duan Ling Tian curiously. Most of the prodigies captured by the Crimson Demon were advanced supreme gods. The few intermediate supreme gods were on par with ordinary advanced supreme gods. The youngest among them were below the age of 5,000, so they were shocked when they discovered that Duan Ling Tian might not even be 2,000 years old. Just like many things, cultivation was difficult in the beginning. Even if one became an intermediate supreme god or an advanced supreme god before reaching 5,000 years old, it did not mean one could enter the realm of supreme gods before the age of 2,000 years old. After a moment, an average-looking young man dressed in a green long robe stepped forward. He looked at Duan Ling Tian, who was still hovering in the air, and said, "We're currently in the Crimson Demon's little world." He didn't reveal his plan to us, but many people speculated that he's searching for a new body. "A new body?" Duan Ling Tian's eyes widened in shock. "You're saying he's planning to possess one of our bodies?" The young man nodded. "That's right. Even supreme powerhouses have to go through heavenly tribulations once every 10,000 years. Some of our ancestors who are supreme powerhouses know about the Crimson Demon. According to them, the Crimson Demon is just a mediocre supreme powerhouse, and he's very old now. It's possible that he was seriously injured during his last heavenly tribulation. As such, it's not surprising that he's willing to do anything to prolong his life." Duan Ling Tian frowned slightly. "Based on my knowledge, even if he possesses a new body, his soul will still be the same. Under such circumstances, he still has to undergo the heavenly tribulation. Moreover, the stronger his soul is, the more difficult it'll be for him to adapt to a new body. It'll take at least a few thousand to 10,000 years for a supreme powerhouse to adapt to a new body, right? Duan Ling Tian had some basic knowledge, after all. Moreover, it was not unheard of for cultivators below the realm of supreme powerhouses to possess another person's body. Even after possessing a body, those people were still unable to avoid the heavenly tribulation that occurred every 10,000 years. As such, it was not surprising if supreme powerhouses had the means to avoid the heavenly tribulation and live forever. It was not difficult for supreme powerhouses to possess a new body, after all. It's common knowledge that ordinary supreme powerhouses aren't capable of avoiding the heavenly tribulation. The green-clad young man shook his head and said, "However, according to some people, there are a few clans in the myriad worlds that possess bloodline powers that can transform their souls and allow them to retain their memories after possessing a new body." Duan Ling Tian's expression changed as soon as he heard the green-clad young man's words. These clans would be invincible if all their supreme powerhouses could live forever. After all, if those supreme powerhouses could live forever, they would only grow stronger with the passage of time. The green-clad young man continued to say, "However, despite those clans' heaven-defying bloodline powers, they only have one chance. Apart from that, the process is extremely dangerous, and the requirements for the new body are extremely high as well. Generally, the younger and stronger the body is, the better it'll be. For example, if a supreme powerhouse had to choose between an intermediate supreme god below the age of 2,000 years old or a rudimentary supreme god who's 1,000 years old, his success rate would be higher if he chose the latter." After a beat, the green-clad young man looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked hesitantly, "Are you really under 2,000 years old?" The green-clad young man could sense through his divine consciousness that Duan Ling Tian was very young, but he could not sense Duan Ling Tian's exact age. When Duan Ling Tian nodded in response to his question, his eyes widened in shock before he said, "If that's the case, I'm afraid that you're now the Crimson Demon's target if he's really from a clan that possesses those heaven-defying bloodline powers. We're not 100% certain, but most of us believe he indeed possesses such a bloodline power. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense for him to keep us here and kill some of us once in a while. It doesn't make sense for him to go through so much trouble just to capture us. After all, the Crimson Demon will be in trouble if our ancestors learn about this." Duan Ling Tian was greatly enlightened after listening to the green-clad young man. He agreed with the green-clad young man. It was likely that he was now targeted by the Crimson Demon, and that the Crimson Demon intended to possess his body. It was likely the Crimson Demon sent him here to test his capabilities. If they're right about the Crimson Demon needing a young and strong body to fulfill the high requirements, he could have summoned me back now. Why is he still keeping me in his little world?" After a moment, Duan Ling Tian concluded that Crimson Demon kept all the prodigies here so they could fight each other for survival. Then, the last one standing would then be possessed by the Crimson Demon. I was wrong. The Crimson Demon lied about the fortuitous encounter, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself with a sigh after realizing the precarious situation he was in. Even if he survived, and the Crimson Demon failed to possess his body, his own soul would be inevitably injured. I didn't expect to be in such deep trouble not long after coming to the outer boundary. Why do I have to wander into the Crimson Demon Ridge after leaving the sea? Duan Ling Tian lamented his luck inwardly. If he had taken a different route, he would not have been targeted by the Crimson Demon. At this moment, the green-clad young man asked, "My name is Wang Yi Yuan. How should I address you?" "Duan Ling Tian." Duan Ling Tian replied without hesitation after he regained his senses. After all, the green-clad young man left a good impression on him. "Brother Duan, let me introduce you to Wang Yiyuan said with a smile as he turned back to look at the few prodigies standing who stayed back. Chapter 4374, 4374, Duan Ling Tian is in a hopeless situation. 4374, Duan Ling Tian is in a hopeless situation. This is Su Su Dong. This is Na Pa. This is Qi Lu The prodigies whom Wang Yiyuan introduced to Duan Ling Tian were all advanced supreme gods, including Wang Yiyuan himself. They were all relatively young and seemed familiar with Wang Yiyuan. They quickly got along with Duan Ling Tian. All of them admired Duan Ling Tian's ability of becoming an intermediate supreme god and stabilizing his cultivation base before reaching 2,000 years old. Although all of us here are prodigies from the myriad worlds, none of our cultivation speed is comparable to yours, Napa said. He was a wickedly handsome young man dressed in a long gray robe, and he had long azure hair. His hair fluttered in the wind like tiny serpents. According to Wang Yiyuan, Napa was from the sun-bright world, one of the top worlds of the myriad worlds. However, the force he belonged to was a second-tier force in the sun-bright world. It was similar to a heavyweight supreme rank force in the god-defying world. However, even a second-tier force in the sun-bright world had a supreme powerhouse. A second-tier force with a supreme powerhouse. Duan Ling Tian was inwardly shocked upon hearing Wang Yiyuan's words. Then he asked Napa, "This means that first-tier forces in the sun-bright world have more than one supreme powerhouse, right?" Napa smiled brightly and proudly before he said, "Of course. There are at least 3 supreme powerhouses in a first-tier force. Some of them are even among the strongest supreme powerhouses. Not only that, but some second-tier forces even have 2 supreme powerhouses." The sun-bright world was one of the strongest worlds in the myriad worlds. It was not surprising that natives of the sun-bright world felt a sense of superiority, especially when they were with natives of other worlds in the outer boundary. After all, there were very few strong worlds in the myriad worlds. At this moment, Su Su Dong, a young man dressed in a long gray robe, said teasingly to Napa, "Napa, so what if you come from the sun-bright world? In the end, you're still captured by the Crimson Demon, right?" Napa's smile vanished immediately, and he fell silent upon hearing Su Su Dong's words. The expressions on Wang Yiyuan and the other 3 prodigies' faces turned grim as well. Duan Ling Tian could naturally sense the heavy atmosphere brought about by Su Su Dong's words. Finally, Qi Lu a bald middle-aged man who was dressed in a loose black robe, looked at Su Su Dong and said, clearly displeased, "Su Su Dong, we're all in the same boat. There's no need for such words." "Aren't you also captured by the Crimson Demon?" Su Su Dong smiled and replied, "Qi Lu I know we're in the same boat. It's likely we'll all die here. I've come to accept my fate. However, it seems like all of you are still holding hope of surviving. Many people tried to escape from this place in the past. Have you forgotten what happened to them?" The smile on his face vanished as he continued to say, "When they tried to break through the spatial barrier, the Crimson Demon caught them and tortured their souls in the most brutal manner in front of all of us. All of them suffered pain beyond our imaginations and died a slow death. I still remember the images vividly as though it just happened yesterday." After Su Su Dong finished speaking, a smile of despair appeared on his face. Silence descended immediately following Su Su Dong's words. After a few moments, Su Su Dong, Qi Lu and Napa turned around and left, leaving Wang Yiyuan and Duan Ling Tian alone. "Brother Ling Tian," Wang Yiyuan said with a smile, "although it's unfortunate that we met in such a place, our meeting is fated. Let me show you around since you're new here." "Thank you," Duan Ling Tian replied. He knew nothing about this little world compared to Wang Yiyuan and the others, so he was eager to learn more about this place where the Crimson Demon held the young prodigies captive. Although the chances were slim, he still wanted to look for a way to escape. He could sense Wang Yiyuan and the others' despair, but he had no intention of doing nothing and waiting for death. It was not in his character to give up. After leaving the stone platform, Duan Ling Tian learned from Wang Yiyuan that those captured by the Crimson Demon would appear in the little world on the stone platform. Whenever a newcomer appeared, the commotion would catch the attention of the other prodigies. Some of them would come to watch the show, but many of them were not interested or were in closed-door cultivation. Duan Ling Tian looked at Wang Yiyuan and asked, "I heard someone said earlier that a few prodigies would die every once in a while." Wang Yiyuan revealed a hopeless smile on his face before he replied with a nod, "That's right. To be honest, I barely survived previously. I was lucky to have survived. In any case, it's obvious that I don't meet the Crimson Demon standards. Perhaps it won't be long before I die during his next game." "Game?" Duan Ling Tian frowned slightly. Wang Yiyuan nodded. "Every once in a while, the Crimson Demon will throw us into a dangerous secret realm. We have to pass a series of challenges in the secret realm. If you die there, that's it. When I first arrived, there were 139 prodigies. Now, there are only 32 of us left, including you." After listening to Wang Yiyuan, Duan Ling Tian naturally knew that the Crimson Demon was culling the prodigies by sending them to a secret realm in his little world to test their strength, weeding out the weaker ones. Letter 192, letter 1D45F, letter 1D41E, EWE, letter 1D68B, letter 1D45B, letter FF4F, letter 1D66B, letter 1D68TL. Calm Wang Yiyuan sighed. "Perhaps this will only come to an end when only one of us is left standing. If everyone's speculations are right, the last one standing will be possessed by the Crimson Demon. If that's the case, it doesn't matter at all if we die or survive. Although we don't show, most of us have already come to terms with the fact that we won't be able to leave this place alive." Su Su Dong's words only reminded us of the sad reality of our situation. Duan Ling Tian could hear the despair in Wang Yiyuan's voice, and he could empathize with Wang Yiyuan and the others. He would have felt the same if he were in their shoes. "The weakest among us are intermediate supreme gods. If ordinary people were here, they might have already committed suicide," Wang Yiyuan said. "Brother Ling Tian, you'll have to find a cultivation ground for yourself here. I carved out a cave in one of the mountains here. Since everyone's in the same boat, no one will look for trouble with you as long as you don't provoke them. The top advanced supreme gods here, in particular, keep to themselves. They can't be bothered with anything and are only focused on breaking through to become a supreme powerhouse. Unless we're brought to a secret realm by the Crimson Demon, they rarely appear." Thanks to Wang Yiyuan, Duan Ling Tian had a better understanding of the prodigies that were captured by the Crimson Demon. The oldest among them was a top advanced supremor god who was slightly over 10,000 years old. A top advanced supreme god who's slightly over 10,000 years old and close to becoming a supreme powerhouse would be a prominent figure in the god-defying world. Alas, such a person is still trapped in this little world, and he faces the threat of death every day, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself with a sigh. After a moment, Duan Ling Tian could not help but ask, "Were those who tried to escape top advanced supreme gods?" Wang Yiyuan said with a wry smile, "Do you think they'd be ordinary if they had the courage to try and escape from the Crimson Demon? Obviously all of them were top advanced supreme gods." Duan Ling Tian's heart trembled as the reality of being trapped in a terrifying and hopeless situation hit him. Chapter 4375. 4375 50% chance, 4375 50% chance. Duan Ling Tian further understood the dangers he would face in this place after speaking to Wang Yiyuan. Even top advanced supreme gods could not escape from this place. Those top advanced supreme gods who tried to escape were all caught and tortured to death in front of everyone by the Crimson Demon. If this is the Crimson Demon's little world, he'll know about everything that happens here even if the little world isn't in his body. Unless I become a supreme powerhouse, it's impossible to escape from this place. In the end, Duan Ling Tian found a place near Wang Yiyuan's cultivation ground and made it his cultivation ground. As he looked at Wang Yiyuan's retreating back, his expression was grim. With his strength and the help of the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements, he was not weaker than the average top advanced supreme gods. However, it was useless since even top advanced supreme gods could not escape from this place. Duan Ling Tian could not help but wonder if he could truly escape from this place. In the beginning, he was rather hopeful, but at this moment he could not help but despair. After entering the cave he carved out, Duan Ling Tian threw out a formation compass to isolate the cave before he sat down cross-legged and opened his little world to speak to the world-cleansing divine water, the most knowledgeable one of the 5 divine elements. Sister Water, is there any way for me to escape? The world-cleansing divine water used to reside in the divine tree of life in his little world. She had spent a long time with the divine tree of life, and they were like inseparable partners. According to the world-cleansing divine water, when she first started living in the divine tree of life before it was obtained by a supreme powerhouse. At that time, the supreme powerhouse was yet a supreme powerhouse when he obtained the divine tree of life. He only became a supreme powerhouse later on after he obtained the divine tree of life and obtained its help. As such, the world-cleansing divine water witnessed his entire journey of becoming a supreme powerhouse. In terms of judgment and knowledge, the other 4 divine elements could not compare to the world-cleansing divine water at all. It was for this reason that the other 4 divine elements treated her like their leader, even if their strength now was not inferior to hers. After listening to Duan Ling Tian's words, the world-cleansing divine water mulled over his words for a moment before she said, "Their speculations are likely correct. The Crimson Demon is likely from one of the clans they spoke about. He should be able to change his soul and possess a body to escape the heavenly tribulation that happens once every 10,000 years. However, the success rate is extremely low. The body he possesses has to be very strong and meet strict requirements. The requirements are different from clan to clan. There are quite a few clans in the myriad worlds capable of such a feat, and I know about them. Hence, I know the requirements for each clan are different. They depend on the clan's bloodline powers and traits." The world-cleansing divine water paused for a moment before she continued to say, "It's not hard to see that he imprisoned everyone here and tested their strength in a secret realm to find a new body. The last one standing will be his chosen one. However, the requirements can't be based on just innate talent alone. Otherwise, he would have directly chosen you." The world-cleansing divine water shared similar thoughts with Duan Ling Tian. If it was based on talent alone, there was no need for the Crimson Demon to imprison him here. However, since the Crimson Demon placed him here with the other prodigies, it meant that the Crimson Demon currently viewed him and the other prodigies equally, and they were all still candidates to be selected. "Sister, is there a way to escape without alerting him?" Duan Ling Tian asked again. What he wanted to do most now was to escape from this place and the Crimson Demon's control. "It'll be very difficult," the world-cleansing divine water said with a sigh. "Even if a supreme powerhouse's little world isn't in his body, he still has a close connection to it. He can easily monitor everything in his little world. The problem is there are too few people here. For example, the God-defying world, the little world of a supreme powerhouse, is filled with many people. As such, the supreme powerhouse could not keep an eye on everyone. On the contrary, with how few people here, it'll be easy for the Crimson Demon to keep an eye on everyone. Upon hearing the world-cleansing divine water's words, the spark of hope that appeared in Duan Ling Tian's heart was quickly extinguished. He muttered, "Things really aren't simple. However, I said it's very difficult, not impossible," the world-cleansing divine water said, reigniting Duan Ling Tian's hope. If this is truly the Crimson Demon's little world, there must be a divine tree of life in here. Unlike supreme powerhouses, most people don't have a divine tree of life in their little worlds. On the contrary, all supreme powerhouses have a divine tree of life in their respective little worlds. For supreme powerhouses who didn't have a divine tree of life before becoming a supreme powerhouse, once they became a supreme powerhouse, the seed of the divine tree of life will appear in their little worlds. It'll spring from the ground and grow at a rapid speed, the cleansing divine water said. Sister Water, since you mentioned the divine tree of life, could it be that you want to target his divine tree of life? Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. He could vaguely hear the implications behind the world-cleansing divine water's words. Yes, the world-cleansing divine water replied. We should start with targeting the divine tree of life in his little world. We can only hope his divine tree of life has yet to fully mature. Otherwise, it'll be very difficult for us to target it. If it has matured, unless it's damaged, it's impossible for us to target it and leave this place. Then, as though she had just recalled something, the world-cleansing divine water sighed and said, if he's looking for a new body because he doesn't think he can survive his next heavenly tribulation, it means that he's very old and must have been a supreme powerhouse for a long time now. This means that it's impossible that his divine tree of life has yet to mature. We can only hope his divine tree of life is damaged when he underwent his previous heavenly tribulation. The more damaged his divine tree of life is, the better it'll be for you. Even then, I'm not completely confident about the success rate of this plan. Even if his divine tree of life is severely damaged, you only have, at most, a 50% success rate. Before he reacts, you have to seize the chance and leave his little world. Duan Ling Tian fell silent when he heard these words. After a while, his eyes shone with determination, and he said through gritted teeth, a 50% chance isn't bad. It's a lot better than not having a chance at all. Sister Water, tell me what I should do next. Chapter 4376. 4376, The Boundary Pill. 4376, The Boundary Pill. Previously, Duan Ling Tian had lost all hope of escaping. However, the world-cleansing divine water's words undoubtedly reignited his hope. Under normal circumstances, it was an impossible task for Duan Ling Tian to escape unnoticed by the supreme powerhouse, whose little world he was in unless he was a supreme powerhouse. He had not even broken into the realm of advanced supreme gods. How could he become a supreme powerhouse so quickly? He could not afford to wait until he became a supreme powerhouse before he escaped. At that time, who knew if the Crimson Demon would have already possessed him? Not only that, but what he died during one of the challenges in the secret realm used to test the strength of the prodigies the Crimson Demon captured. The challenges in the secret realms the Crimson Demon created for those of us he imprisoned are clearly more than to test just our strength, talent, and comprehension skills. Duan Ling Tian knew this very well after listening to Wang Yi Yuan and the world-cleansing divine water. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian no longer felt bleak like before after listening to the world-cleansing divine water. A wry smile appeared on his face as he thought to himself, I didn't expect to face such a calamity so soon after coming to the outer boundary. Even with Sister Water's idea, I only have a 50% chance to survive. Forget it. I'll face it as it comes. I'll try to improve my strength as much as I can. Even if I become an advanced supreme god now, I still won't be a match for the Crimson Demon. However, it'll increase my chances of survival when the Crimson Demon throws me into a secret realm. But then again, who knows if the challenges test one's strength? In any case, being stronger will give an advantage in most situations. With this thought in mind, Duan Ling Tian began to cultivate, absorbing the liquid from the divine fountain in his body to boost his cultivation. The divine fountain was far superior to any divine pills he could take. After soaking in the pool of divine fountain, Duan Ling Tian discovered that the divine pills he owned that were useful to him were no longer of use to him. His body seemed to have developed immunity against the divine pills. In the end, he could only give up on taking the divine pills. So what if I'm a skilled alchemist? Currently, even ordinary supreme-grade divine pills can't help my cultivation. Perhaps, only boundary pills from the outer boundary are effective on me. The boundary pill could only be refined by alchemists who were supreme powerhouses. In fact, only highly skilled supreme alchemists could refine the boundary pill. It was a supreme-grade divine pill. The boundary pill was useful even to supreme powerhouses. As such, it was a rare treasure for supreme gods. Duan Ling Tian had heard about the boundary pill when he was in the god-defying world. Unsurprisingly, the boundary pill was rare in not only the god-defying world, but the myriad worlds as well. It was as rare as a phoenix feather. Unless a supreme powerhouse was involved, a bloodbath would occur whenever a boundary pill was found. In the god-defying world, there's no supreme powerhouse capable of refining the boundary pill. Apart from that, the boundary pills that appeared in the god-defying world were only common boundary pills. Even then, they were incredibly rare treasures in the god-defying world. Duan Ling Tian had heard about this from a descendant of a supreme powerhouse, while he was in the base camp in the chaotic region of the god-defying world's realm battlefield. According to the other party, even the supreme powerhouse from his force only managed to obtain 5 boundary pills in his entire life. 3 of the pills were obtained at a great price from supreme powerhouses from other places in the outer boundary. Perhaps the pills I refine will only be effective on me once I become a supreme powerhouse. It doesn't matter. During this time, all I need to do is devote myself to cultivating. There's no need to think about alchemy. Duan Ling Tian's heart gradually calmed down with this thought in mind, and he continued to focus on cultivating. During this time, he lost track of time and forgot about his current situation as he cultivated. With the help of the divine fountain, his cultivation continued to improve at an exaggerated speed, and he was drawing closer and closer to the realm of advanced supreme gods. Crimson Demon Ridge, on a small island suspended high up in the clouds. Amidst mountains and clear rivers stood a magnificent mansion. In the front yard of the mansion, the Crimson Demon, who was sitting silently on the ground, suddenly opened his eyes that were shining brightly. Divine fountain. Moreover, it seems like he has a huge amount of liquid from it. A hint of surprise could be seen in the Crimson Demon's eyes at this moment. Although the Crimson Demon's little world was not in his body at this moment, he was still closely connected to it. It was easy for him to monitor everything in his little world. After sending Duan Ling Tian, who was an intermediate supreme god capable of killing advanced supreme gods, into his little world, all of the Crimson Demon's attention had been on him. If it were up to the Crimson Demon, he would have directly chosen Duan Ling Tian and possessed Duan Ling Tian's body. Alas, it was not up to him to decide the body to possess. He had to follow the ancestral precepts of his clan when choosing a body to possess. This was to increase the success rate of his possession. The best candidate is someone compatible with me. The compatibility doesn't just depend on strength and talent. However, I hope he's the one. From what I can see, he still has a large amount of liquid from the divine fountain in his body. If I can possess him, the liquid from the divine fountain will naturally be mine. At that time, it'll be faster for me to re-enter the realm of supreme powerhouses. The crimson demon's eyes shone feverishly as he muttered to himself. Even if he's not chosen in the end, I have to find a way to obtain the liquid from the divine fountain from him. After all, it'll be extremely useful. Even the crimson demon, who was a supreme powerhouse, was tempted by the divine fountain. If he did not plan to possess a new body, he would not have been interested in the divine fountain. However, since he planned to possess a new body, the divine fountain would help him quickly raise his cultivation base after the possession was complete. Alas, I have to be patient. Although the crimson demon was a supreme powerhouse, he was still incapable of opening someone else's spatial ring, since most spatial rings would self-destruct. If he acted rashly and the spatial ring self-destructed, everything in the spatial ring would be lost in space. Finding something in space was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian was unaware that his every move was being watched by the crimson demon. He naturally was also unaware that not only did the crimson demon discover the liquid from the divine fountain, but the crimson demon was also scheming for the liquid from the divine fountain. Chapter 4377. 4377 3 months later 4377 3 months later Duan Ling Tian was so focused on cultivating that he lost track of time completely. He did not even use his divine consciousness to monitor his surroundings. He only left a small opening in Little World so the 5 divine elements could protect him. With the help of the divine fountain, the 5 divine elements had recovered significantly. They could now protect Duan Ling Tian while they continued to recover. Although he was in a precarious situation, none of them had any complaints. After all, it was difficult for them to have a better future if they left Duan Ling Tian. If he managed to grow stronger, escape from this place, and became a supreme powerhouse in the future, their future would be very bright. If they switched to another host, not only was there no guarantee the other party might become a supreme powerhouse, but the other party might not trust them as well. Even if the other party was highly talented and could become a supreme powerhouse, there was also a chance the other party could die prematurely. In the 5 divine elements' eyes, Duan Ling Tian was extremely lucky. They had witnessed his growth, and all of them were certain he would become a supreme powerhouse. He was undoubtedly the best host they could find. Duan Ling Tian was also aware of the 5 divine elements' thoughts, so he felt rest assured and left them to guard him. Moreover, in this place, the 5 divine elements only needed to protect him from the other prodigies. If the crimson demon, who was a supreme powerhouse, attacked him, he would not be able to defend himself even if he was not cultivating, let alone 5 divine elements. The divine fountain is truly miraculous. My soul feels refreshed, and I seem to perceive the world in a different way now. Although it was easy for me to perceive heaven and earth spirit energy in the past, it's even easier now. Duan Ling Tian, who was cultivating, felt as though he was one with the heaven and earth spirit energy. He discovered that he could easily absorb the heaven and earth spirit energy. Not only that, but the liquid from the divine fountain was also emitting an energy similar to the heaven and earth spirit energy. As that energy grew stronger, his cultivation speed increased again. While Duan Ling Tian was focused on cultivating, he was suddenly awakened by a voice that seemed to reverberate in his soul. Everyone, prepare yourselves. After 3 months, you'll enter a secret realm. It's the same as before. All those who refuse to enter the secret realm, I hope all of you don't make a mistake. Duan Ling Tian naturally recognized the voice that interrupted his cultivation. It was the voice of the Crimson Demon, the owner of the Crimson Demon Ridge who imprisoned him here. Duan Ling Tian's expression was solemn at this moment. His heart, which had calmed down, began to grow restless again. He was like an ant in front of the Crimson Demon, who was a supreme powerhouse. As such, how could he dare to refuse to enter the secret realm when ordered by the Crimson Demon? I don't know when I'll become a supreme powerhouse. Currently, even if I find that supreme powerhouse from a soul clan who merged with Yunqing Yan, there's nothing I can do since I'm no match for him. How can I force him to release Care's soul? When Duan Ling Tian thought about this, his eyes shone with determination. His desire to grow stronger intensified. After calming down, Duan Ling Tian continued to cultivate. At this time, in the Crimson Demon's little world, the other prodigies were not as calm as Duan Ling Tian was. A young man walked out of his cultivation ground and met up with the other prodigies. He said with a bitter and helpless smile on his face, "The Crimson Demon is going to open another secret realm again this time. Among the 31 of us, I don't know how many will survive." "No, there are now 32 of us," another young man said as he shook his head. "2 years ago, a newcomer came. He's an intermediate supreme god. He was only seen when he first appeared. I haven't seen him since. He's quite patient and calm." "Indeed," the other prodigies agreed with these words. "He might have been calm before, but I'm not sure he'll be able to keep calm now. I know where his cultivation ground is. Let's make a bet. I bet that he'll come out soon." "I won't bet with you on this. The possibility of losing is high." In the end, only one young man took the bet. The result came quickly as well. The person who initiated the bet lost. Even a few days after the Crimson Demon's announcement about the secret realm, no one saw Duan Ling Tian coming out of his cultivation ground. "He's really calm." Although the person lost the bet, he did not have any complaints. However, he really did not expect that a newcomer who was only an intermediate supreme god was able to maintain his composure for so long. There were still many people who were still injured from their last visit to a secret realm and had yet to recover. As such, when they learned that they would have to enter another secret realm in 3 months, their hearts sank. There was no doubt that their trip to the secret realm would be even more dangerous now that they were injured. At this time, Wang Yiyuan, the person whom Duan Ling Tian was most familiar with in this place, walked out of his cultivation ground with a grim expression on his face. I didn't expect him to open a secret realm again so soon. The last time he opened a secret realm was 9 years ago. When there were no newcomers, he only opened a secret realm once every 20 years. Even when someone new came, he would only open a secret realm once every 10 years. Brother Ling Tian has only been here for a few years, but he's already going to open a secret realm. What's wrong? Is he growing impatient to find a body to possess? I thought Brother Ling Tian's arrival will delay the opening of another secret realm for another few years. Who knew it'll be the other way around? Wang Yiyuan was understandably upset. Perhaps, if Duan Ling Tian did not come, the Crimson Demon would only open a secret realm 7 years later at least. Based on past patterns, instead of once every 20 years, the Crimson Demon would open a secret realm once every 10 years. Wang Yiyuan thought he would have more time to heal his injuries before the secret realm opened again. He did not expect that it would be brought forward. "I'll definitely die in the secret realm this time," Wang Yiyuan thought to himself, feeling worried. Wang Yiyuan. F letter 1D633, letter 1D486, letter 212F, letter 1D464, letter 1D68T, letter 1D68B, letter 1D5FB, letter 1D698, letter 1D637EL. Calm at this moment, while Wang Yiyuan was still depressed, a young man with a dark expression on his face flew over from the distance and asked, "How much of your injuries did you recover?" Wang Yiyuan looked at the young man and shook his head. "What about you?" Similar to Wang Yiyuan, the young man was seriously injured during the last trip in the secret realm. The young man's expression was gloomy as he said in a deep voice, "I've only recovered about 60% to 70% of my injuries. If the secret realm opens as usual, I'm sure I would have healed my injuries completely at that time. I really didn't expect the Crimson Demon to open a secret realm ahead of schedule. It's all that newcomer's fault." The young man clearly resented Duan Ling Tian. Wang Yuan shook his head and said, "You can't say that. It might not have anything to do with him. Even if it really has something to do with him, it's all the Crimson Demon's decision. Moreover, we don't know for sure. Perhaps the Crimson Demon has long planned to open the secret realm in advance." Wang Yuan's attitude was very different from that of the young man. The young man glanced at Wang Yuan and said tonelessly, "Wang Yuan, I heard people say that you're quite close to the newcomer. I didn't expect you to take his side despite only knowing him for a short time. No matter what, he annoys me. This is all his fault." In fact, it was understandable that the young man blamed Duan Ling Tian. After all, before Duan Ling Tian's arrival, the secret realm would open on schedule. After Duan Ling Tian came, the schedule was brought forward. How could there be such a coincidence? Like I said before, it might not have anything to do with him, Wang Yuan said with a helpless smile. Perhaps the Crimson Demon is impatient to find a suitable body to possess. The timing is indeed strange. In any case, before he came, the situation in the secret realms had grown increasingly brutal. More and more people died each time. You don't think that's normal, right? In the past, the number of people who died in the secret realms was roughly the same. However, the number has been increasing and more than doubled. Although Wang Yuan's words made sense, the young man clearly did not want to listen to his words. As soon as Wang Yuan finished speaking, he frowned and left after scoffing. Wang Yuan sighed helplessly as he watched the young man leave. His eyes shone with despair as he murmured, "It seems like I won't be able to return to the clan again in this life. I really didn't expect my journey to come to an end so soon. If only I could turn back time, I wouldn't have left the clan." At this time, there were many people in the Crimson Demon's little world who were despairing like Wang Yuan. Nonetheless, they gathered themselves after a while and prepared to enter the secret realm that would open in 3 months. Chapter 4378. 4378. Everyone's gathered at the entrance of the secret realm. 4378. Everyone's gathered at the entrance of the secret realm if it was in the outer boundary. Most people would have been ecstatic when given a chance to enter a secret realm. After all, there were fortuitous encounters in secret realms. Many supreme powerhouses and cultivators who did not belong to any sects or clans often left precious treasures and legacies in secret realms, which they prepared before their deaths. These secret realms were left to fated people to discover them. In the history of the myriad worlds, there were many supreme powerhouses who rose to the top through these encounters. However, there were also malicious powerhouses who left deadly secret realms for hapless people who stumbled upon them just to mess with future generations. Most people, even the most bloodthirsty, would have the intention to harm the future generation. No matter how vicious they were, they still hoped someone would inherit their legacies. It was also a way to gain peace before their deaths. For all these reasons, most people would be delighted by the chance to enter a secret realm in the outer boundary. On the contrary, the prodigies imprisoned by the Crimson Demon despaired at the thought of entering a secret realm. After all, the secret realm opened by the Crimson Demon did not contain any treasure or fortuitous encounter and was only filled with challenges. If they could not pass the challenges, they would be severely injured, and in the worst-case scenario, they would die. There were no advantages and only disadvantages to entering the secret realm. Who would be willing to enter such a secret realm? Alas, no matter how reluctant they were, they could only obey and enter the secret realm. After all, they still had a chance of surviving if they entered the secret realm, but if they refused to enter the secret realm, they would be killed immediately. 3 months were not long to begin with. and it flew by even faster for the prodigies imprisoned in the Crimson Demon's little world. Wang Yiyuan, whom Duan Ling Tian was most familiar with in the Crimson Demon's little world, spent 3 months in torture. After all, he was certain that he would be among those who perished in the secret realm this time. Previously, 67 people entered the secret realm, but only 31 people survived. Based on the death rate, even if the number doesn't increase, at most only 15 or 16 people will survive this time. Excluding Brother Ling Tian, who only came here a few years ago, more than half of us are injured. 7 people, including myself, are seriously injured. This time, unless there's a miracle, the 7 of us will surely die. Wang Yiyuan did not dare to let down his guard at all during these 3 months. Although he was certain of his death, he did not stop preparing. After all, he really did not want to die. The secret realm is now open. A thunderous voice rang in the air, waking Wang Yiyuan up from his cultivation. When he regained his senses, his expression changed drastically. The day was finally here. The owner of the voice was none other than the Crimson Demon, the supreme powerhouse who imprisoned him here. The Crimson Demon's voice was like a nightmare to him. If someone doesn't enter the secret realm within 100 breaths, I'll consider it as their refusal to enter the secret realm, and I'll kill them immediately. The countdown starts now. Wang Yiyuan, who was distracted, did not notice Duan Ling Tian, who had flown up into the air as well. At this moment, Duan Ling Tian, who was also awakened by the Crimson Demon's voice, muttered inwardly, "I'm still a small distance away from breaking into the realm of advanced supreme gods." As soon as Duan Ling Tian flew up into the sky, he noticed Wang Yiyuan, the only person he was familiar with in this hell. Although he could only see Wang Yiyuan's back, he could palpably sense how depressed Wang Yiyuan was at the moment. Duan Ling Tian approached Wang Yiyuan and took the initiative to greet Wang Yiyuan. "Brother Yiyuan." However, Wang Yiyuan continued forward as though he did not hear Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian moved next to Wang Yiyuan. When he took a look, he saw Wang Yiyuan's pale face and lifeless eyes devoid of hope. At this time, Wang Yiyuan finally regained his senses and noticed Duan Ling Tian. He quickly forced a smile on his face and called out, "Brother Ling Tian." "You?" Duan Ling Tian was perplexed. Previously, Wang Yiyuan was pessimistic, but Wang Yiyuan was not in such a terrible state. He could not figure out what had happened to Wang Yiyuan to bring about such a change. Duan Ling Tian finally understood Wang Yiyuan's change when Wang Yiyuan told him about how he was certain of his death in the secret realm this time due to his injuries from before. How could Wang Yiyuan not be depressed since he knew he was going to die after he entered the secret realm? "Brother Ling Tian, I'm sure I'm going to die this time. Since you just arrived, you don't know how brutal the Crimson Demon's secret realms are. You'll be able to see for yourself after this. You must not be careless. I've seen many prodigies who entered the secret realm for the first time die," Wang Yiyuan said with a sigh with a hopeless expression on his face. "I know," Duan Ling Tian replied as he sighed inwardly. He did not know how to comfort Wang Yiyuan at all. No matter what he said, it would be difficult to put Wang Yiyuan at ease. Moreover, Wang Yiyuan was much more familiar with the situation in the secret realm compared to him. He was just a newcomer, after all. Letter 1D65B, letter 1D42B, letter 1D452, letter 1D41E, letter 1D604, letter 212F. After traveling with Wang Yiyuan for a while, Duan Ling Tian saw a lot of people flying over from different directions. All of them traveled in the same direction, and there was a huge vortex up ahead that resembled the maws of a giant beast. A group of people stood outside the vortex, not daring to rush in. "That's the entrance to the secret realm." Duan Ling Tian and Wang Yiyuan did not arrive too early or too late. When they arrived, about 20 people were already gathered there. Not too long after that, about a dozen other people arrived. Duan Ling Tian swept his eyes past everyone and saw quite a few familiar faces. They were people he had seen when he first arrived, and the people whom Wang Yiyuan introduced him to. Although everyone was gathered in the same place, they did not greet each other. Their faces were pale, and their expressions were grim. Some of them were despairing like Wang Yiyuan, and their eyes, similar to those of Wang Yiyuan, were devoid of hope. Duan Ling Tian knew that these people must also be injured like Wang Yiyuan during their previous trip to the secret realm. Now that they were about to enter the secret realm again with injuries, their deaths were almost certain. These people were all prodigies in their own right in the myriad worlds before they were imprisoned by the Crimson Demon. Now they're all at the mercy of the Crimson Demon. Although Duan Ling Tian did not know these people very well, he could not help but feel sad when he looked at them. A sense of powerlessness rose instantly in his heart. At the same time, Duan Ling Tian could not help but wonder inwardly, can I really escape alive with Sister Water's plan? If I fail forever, my outcome will be like theirs. We'll be doomed to stay here until we die. Perhaps my body will be possessed by the Crimson Demon and my soul will no longer be mine. Duan Ling Tian felt extremely suffocated by the heavy and depressing atmosphere. Initially, he had regained his hope, but now he could not help but feel affected by the atmosphere. He began to think that his chances of escaping were not very high. You have 50 breaths left. When the Crimson Demon's voice rang in the air again, everyone, including Duan Ling Tian, jolted in shock. They quickly returned to their senses. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian saw many hostile and resentful gazes directed his way. He frowned slightly, puzzled. He did not know these people, so he could not figure out why they were looking at him with such hostility. At this time, Wang Yiyuan, who was pulled to his senses by the Crimson Demon's voice, called out, "Brother Ling Tian." Then, Wang Yiyuan explained why the others were hostile toward Duan Ling Tian. He had seen Duan Ling Tian's puzzled expression earlier. After Duan Ling Tian heard Wang Yiyuan's explanation, Duan Ling Tian was stunned and speechless. These people think that my arrival caused the Crimson Demon to open the secret realm in advance. Duan Ling Tian felt like he had been wrongly blamed. After all, he did not feel like he did anything wrong. He felt like the others were too unreasonable. According to Wang Yiyuan, before his arrival, the Crimson Demon had already increased the difficulty of the secret realm. The death rate had more than doubled compared to the previous ones. Before that, the death rate was relatively stable. Actually, they know this might not be because of you. It's just that they need a target to vent their emotions on. They can't afford to provoke the Crimson Demon. After all, Wang Yiyuan said through voice transmission. Duan Ling Tian knew that those people regarded him as a pushover and vented their frustrations on him after listening to Wang Yiyuan. "Brother Ling Tian, let's go in. I'm afraid these people will look for trouble with you during these 50 breaths." Duan Ling Tian agreed with Wang Yiyuan and was just about to enter the secret realm when someone suddenly stopped them. "Wang Yiyuan, you can go in. However, I won't allow him to enter without injuring him," the other party said to Wang Yiyuan before he turned to look at Duan Ling Tian with anger and hatred shining in his eyes. Upon hearing this, Wang Yiyuan's expression changed drastically, and he exclaimed, "Peng Pu Sha, you're crossing the line." Chapter 4379, 4379 Peng Pu Sha 4379 Peng Pu Sha was fairly handsome. He looked a little sinister and gloomy. At this moment, his eyes shone with hatred as he stared at Duan Ling Tian. "Crossing the line," Peng Pu Sha said with a sneer. "Wang Yiyuan, it's very likely that the secret realm opened in advance because of him. Your previous injuries were worse than mine. Don't you resent him at all? If the secret realm opened according to the usual schedule, I could be completely healed my injuries. Even if I'm able to survive this time, I might not be able to survive the next time. Today, I won't allow him to enter without suffering injuries." A hint of determination glinted in Peng Pu Sha's eyes when he spoke. "Peng Pu Sha, everything is the Crimson Demon's fault. If you're angry, direct your anger at him. Why are you venting your anger on a newcomer?" Wang Yiyuan said in a deep voice. "Wang Yiyuan, you're no match for me. Moreover, your injuries are more serious than mine. You have little hope of surviving this time. Do you want to get further injured because of him?" Peng Pu Sha retorted as he looked at Wang Yiyuan mockingly. There was also a hint of expectations in his eyes, as though he was certain Wang Yiyuan would back down and stop standing up for Duan Ling Tian now that he had such words. Wang Yiyuan sneered. "Peng Pu Sha, just as you said, I have little hope of surviving this time. I'll likely die. However, there's a higher chance for you to survive. It's true that I'm no match for you. However, if we fight now, even if you kill me, I'm confident I'll be able to injure you before I die. If you really want to fight, I won't back down." At this time, Wang Yiyuan, who already gave up hopes of surviving in the secret realm, was annoyed by Peng Pu Sha stirring up trouble. He usually had a good temper, but he could not help but lose his temper today. Meanwhile, Peng Pu Sha could not help frowning when he heard Wang Yiyuan's words. Indeed, Wang Yiyuan was almost certainly going to die this time in the secret realm. As such, even if Wang Yiyuan fought with him now, Wang Yiyuan had nothing to lose. On the other hand, he was naturally unwilling to go all out to fight Wang Yiyuan since it would affect his performance in the secret realm. He could not help but feel annoyed that Wang Yiyuan refused to back down. While Peng Pu Sha was still mulling over what to do, Duan Ling Tian, who was standing next to Wang Yiyuan, took 2 steps forward before he said to Peng Pu Sha indifferently, "You want to stop me?" Peng Pu Sha did not expect that Duan Ling Tian, who was protected by Wang Yiyuan, would step forward. His anger toward Duan Ling Tian had been stoked by Wang Yiyuan, and now it was directed at Duan Ling Tian again. He said angrily, "So what if I do? It seems like you're not simple. You're just a newcomer, but Wang Yiyuan is so willing to protect you. For Wang Yiyuan's sake, I'll let you go today." As soon as Peng Pu Sha's voice fell, someone chimed in, "Peng Pu Sha, if Wang Yiyuan dares to fight you, the 2 of us will join forces to kill him. You're not the only one who thinks this newcomer caused the secret realm to be opened in advance." Following that, 2 figures flew over. One was a handsome young man dressed in a black robe, and the other was a burly young man dressed in a light blue robe. The one who had spoken was the former. Wang Yiyuan's expression darkened immediately when he saw the 2 young men interfering. He said, "How long you, Tian Hu, previously, you were only slightly injured in the secret realm. Your injuries should have healed by now. Why are you getting involved in this matter?" Wang Yiyuan's strength was on par with the duo, but it would be a problem for him to deal with them if they joined forces. The duo was captured together by the Crimson Demon, and they were best friends who came to the outer boundary together before they were sent here and imprisoned by the Crimson Demon. Among the 4 of them, Peng Pu Sha was the strongest. However, if those 2 joined forces, even Peng Pu Sha was no match for them. Nonetheless, the difference between their strength was not that big. "How long you," the black-clad young man, scoffed. "Tian Hu's and my injuries have indeed healed. However, my cultivation was interrupted this time because the secret realm was opened in advance. I could have had a breakthrough, but the interruption caused my cultivation to stagnate again. You know what it's like to be interrupted at the critical moment. Unless I get another opportunity again, it'll be difficult for me to break through in a short time." Ao Long Yu's voice turned colder and colder as he spoke, revealing his anger. On the other hand, Peng Pu Sha's eyes brightened upon hearing Ao Long Yu's words. He said loudly, "Good. Ao Long Yu, Tian Hu, both of you stop Wang Yiyuan and I'll deal with this brat. Originally, I only planned to injure him. However, since he offended you, I'll kill him to avenge you." Peng Pu-sha could hardly contain his joy. After all, Wang Yiyuan threatened him earlier, and he was even forced to give up by the threat. However, now that he had helpers, there was no need for him to give up on his initial plan at all. Swoosh, swoosh. As soon as Peng Pu-sha's voice fell, Aolong Yu and Tian Hu flew over toward Wang Yiyuan. Wang Yiyuan, don't even think of helping that brat. You should know that Tian Hu and I are not only strong enough to stop you, but we can also help him at the same time, Aolong Yu said threateningly. Wang Yiyuan's expression further darkened. Peng Pu-sha laughed when he saw Wang Yiyuan standing still with a dark expression on his face. Then he turned to Duan Ling Tian with a grin and said, "Brat, you're going to die." Peng Pu-sha's bad mood had completely disappeared at this moment. At this time, Wang Yiyuan said to Duan Ling Tian through voice transmission, "Brother Ling Tian, I can't help you now. It's okay if Aolong Yu and Tian Hu join forces to deal with me. However, if I make a move now, they'll also join Peng Pu-sha to deal with you. At that time, it'll be impossible for you to escape. There are fewer than 30 breaths left now. When he attacks, try to run and stall for time. When the time is drawing near, he'll naturally enter the secret realm. He won't dare to be late. Otherwise, the Crimson Demon will kill him. However, you're different. Since you're new, the Crimson Demon won't kill you immediately. Such things have happened before in the past." Duan Ling Tian turned his head slightly to the side and nodded before he looked at Peng Pu-sha, who was flying toward him. The smile on his face, which was directed at Wang Yiyuan earlier, vanished immediately when he thought about how Peng Pu-sha treated him like a pushover and tried to vent his anger on him. Boom! Peng Pu-sha did not waste time in bringing out his divine artifact. Based on its aura, it had also absorbed more fragments of prime divine artifacts than Duan Ling Tian's 7 orifices exquisite sword. Apart from that, although there was no phenomenon in the Crimson Demon's little world, Duan Ling Tian could tell that Peng Pu-sha's law of fire was not any weaker than his law of space and law of time. Duan Ling Tian also felt a sense of familiarity when he sensed the aura of the long staff, which seemed capable of shattering the void. It's the weapon Dao. The staff Dao, moreover, it's not in the rudimentary form either. Duan Ling Tian was slightly surprised by this discovery. However, after a moment he thought this was only natural. After all, those imprisoned by the Crimson Demon were all outstanding. Die! Peng Pu-sh roared as he brought his rod down. At the same time, flames surged out like a terrifying beast toward Duan Ling Tian. Blood chi lingered on the surface of Peng Pu-sha's body before it entered his body, boosting his already powerful attack even more. A suffocating pressure appeared immediately when Peng Pu-sha attacked. At this time, many of the prodigies had gathered around to watch the commotion. There were more than 20 breaths left before they had to enter the secret realm, so they decided to watch the show first. They wanted to watch an exciting fight. It seems like Peng Pu-sha really intends to kill that kid. He went all out as soon as he attacked. Clearly, he wants to kill the kid with one strike and quickly enter the secret realm. That kid is just an intermediate supreme god. Even if he doesn't die, he'll be severely injured by Peng Pu-sha's attack. Peng Pu-sha's second attack will certainly kill him. Boom, boom, boom. When Peng Pu-sha attacked, green energy appeared around Aolong Yu before it suddenly turned into vines. Similarly, gray energy appeared around Tian Hu before it merged with Aolong Yu's energy and spread to the surroundings. In the end, it turned into a barrier that covered Duan Ling Tian and Peng Pu-sha. Upon seeing this, Wang Yiyuan's expression changed again. He did not expect the duo to make a move, cutting off Duan Ling Tian's chance to run and dodge. He mobilized his energy, but Peng Pu-sha's attack had already covered the entire inside of the barrier. It looked as though Duan Ling Tian could not dodge the attack at all. Meanwhile, the others could not help but shake their heads. Long Yu and Tian, who completely cut off the newcomer's escape route. They're really ruthless. There's no point in continuing watching. Let's go. Even if the newcomer survives, he won't be able to withstand Peng Pu Sha's next attack. Chapter 4380, 4380, A Peerless Prodigy. 4380, a peerless prodigy. Among the group of prodigies imprisoned by the Crimson Demon, Peng Pu Sha was definitely not among the strongest. His strength was ranked somewhere in the upper middle. Previously, Peng Pu Sha fought a personal demon guard of the Crimson Demon. After 100 moves, he fell into a disadvantageous position, and after 300 moves he was defeated. The personal demon guard could be considered a top advanced supreme god. In the myriad worlds, he was strong enough to support a powerful force on his own. Due to Peng Pu Sha's previous fight, many prodigies did not think Duan Ling Tian was a match for Peng Pu Sha. However, just before they entered the secret realm, a 7-colored sword ray suddenly appeared in the range of Peng Pu Sha's attack. Swoosh! The sword ray, which was brimming with vital energy and the intertwined energies of the 5 divine elements, shot out and easily destroyed Peng Pu Sha's attack. Under the horrified gazes of the others, the sword ray then shot toward Peng Pu Sha like the Grim Reaper's scythe. Impossible! Peng Pu Sha roared as he hastily retreated. Unfortunately, he had only retreated a certain distance away before he was stopped by the barrier that Long Yu and Tian who erected to prevent Duan Ling Tian from dodging his attack. Hurry up and withdraw the barrier, Peng Pu Sha shouted anxiously as he looked at Long Yu and Tian who, based on Duan Ling Tian's earlier attack, he knew without a doubt that he was no match for Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian was so strong that he easily destroyed his attack. In the past, when Peng Pu Sha fought the Crimson Demon's personal demon guard, he had never felt such terrible pressure. One had to know that the personal demon guard was a top advanced supreme god. At this moment, he knew that Duan Ling Tian, who was just an intermediate supreme god, definitely possessed the strength of a stronger top advanced supreme god. There was also a difference in strength between top advanced supreme gods. If the Crimson Demon's personal demon guard was among the weakest top advanced supreme gods, then Duan Ling Tian's strength now was close to the strongest top advanced supreme gods. As such, how could Peng Pu Sha be a match for him? Meanwhile, Long Yu and Tian who were so startled by Duan Ling Tian's display of strength that they failed to react in time to Peng Pu Sha's words. Although only a moment had passed before they returned to their senses, just as they began to remove the barrier, the 7-colored sword ray brimming with a strong vital energy, and the 5 divine elements, energies were already drawing close to Peng Pu Sha. Although Peng Pu Sha was panicking, he did not lose his composure completely and quickly defended against the attack. After all, he was also an experienced and outstanding advanced supreme god. At this time, Peng Pu Sha had already expected to be injured. He quickly made up his mind. He would try his best to defend himself against Duan Ling Tian's attack before he tried to escape into the secret realm. It did not matter even if he was injured. After all, he might still have a chance to escape death in the secret realm. Based on his plan, it was clear that he had completely acknowledged that Duan Ling Tian was much stronger than him despite only being an intermediate supreme god. At this time, Duan Ling Tian continued to advance toward Peng Pu Sha. At the same time, he looked at Long Yu and Tian who indifferently, "After I kill him, it'll be your turn next." Long Yu and Tian whose expressions changed as soon as they heard Duan Ling Tian's words. "Let's escape." Long Yu and Tian who exchanged a look before they decisively fled toward the secret realm. Since Long Yu and Tian who stopped in the midst of the process of withdrawing the barrier, it would take a certain amount of time for the barrier to dissipate on its own. Under such circumstances, Peng Pu Sha, who had already planned his escape, felt the barrier at his back and looked at Duan Ling Tian with an expression of despair. It's too late. Under everyone's watchful eyes, Duan Ling Tian's fierce sword ray broke through Peng Pu Sha's last defense and killed Peng Pu Sha. When Peng Pu Sha died, Long Yu and Tian, who had just arrived at the entrance of the secret realm, their expressions changed into one of regret upon witnessing Peng Pu Sha's death. If they had known the newcomer was so strong, they would not have dared to provoke him. After all, they only dared to do so because they were confident about defeating the other party. Run! After witnessing Peng Pu Sha's death, the duo no longer dared to hesitate. They quickly turned around and entered the secret realm, disappearing before everyone's eyes. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian only collected Peng Pu Sha's prominent divine artifact after he killed Peng Pu Sha. Peng Pu Sha's spatial ring had self-destructed upon his death, and its contents were swept into the turbulent space. It would be like searching for a needle in a haystack to look for the contents. Not long after Peng Pu Sha died, Long Yu and Tian, whose barrier completely disappeared as well. The group of prodigies, who were about to enter the secret realm before they stopped to watch the fight again, looked at Duan Ling Tian in shock. Only a few breaths passed from the moment Peng Pu Sha attacked to the moment he died, and in just a few breaths, their impression of the newcomer changed completely. Even Wang Yiyuan, who stood up for Duan Ling Tian, was looking at Duan Ling Tian with a shocked expression on his face. When he thought about how he had wanted to protect Duan Ling Tian earlier, his face flushed red from embarrassment, and a wry smile appeared on his face. With Duan Ling Tian's strength, Duan Ling Tian did not need his protection at all. Even if Peng Pu Sha, Long Yu, and Tian who attacked Duan Ling Tian at the same time, they might not be a match for Duan Ling Tian. When one's strength reached a certain level, and the difference in strength between one and one's opponents was substantial, it was almost impossible to win through numbers. In this regard, quality trumped quantity. They ran away pretty fast, Duan Ling Tian said with a sneer as he looked at the entrance of the secret realm. He was not one to look for trouble, but it did not mean he was afraid of trouble. If someone offended him, they would have to pay the price. I hope the both of you don't die in the secret realm, Duan Ling Tian thought to himself. At this time, Wang Yiyuan said, Brother Ling Tian, the time's almost up. There are only a dozen or so breaths left. Duan Ling Tian smiled at Wang Yiyuan amiably upon hearing these words before he flew toward the secret realm. From the beginning to the end, Duan Ling Tian was not worried about angering the Crimson Demon after killing Peng Pu Sha. This was because he knew the Crimson Demon would not intervene. When he had just arrived, he had learned from Wang Yiyuan that the Crimson Demon did not care if the prodigies fought among themselves. If one was killed, in the Crimson Demon's eyes, it only meant that one was incompetent and was not worthy of becoming his new body. As such, neither Duan Ling Tian nor Peng Pu Sha was worried when they fought each other. Seeing that Duan Ling Tian had entered the secret realm, Wang Yiyuan also followed suit. A bitter smile could be seen on his face as he thought to himself. Earlier, I reminded Brother Ling Tian to be careful, however. It seems like my reminder is redundant. With Brother Ling Tian's strength, unless the Crimson Demon makes a move, it's not difficult for him to survive the secret realm. Although the challenges in the secret realm were not all aimed to test one's strength, having great strength still gave one the advantage. In Wang Yiyuan's memory, there was only one top advanced supreme god who had died in the secret realm. After Duan Ling Tian and Wang Yiyuan entered the secret realm, the others returned to their senses as well and entered the secret realm. At the same time, they discussed fervently among themselves. I really didn't expect Duan Ling Tian to be so powerful. How's he so powerful? Although his comprehension of the law of space is profound, it has yet to reach the perfect form. However, his sword Tao is very strong. Although his sword Tao is strong, it's impossible for it to boost his strength to such an extent. Didn't you sense the abnormality in his energy earlier when he attacked? He had help. That's right. I sensed the energies of the divine tree of life and the 5 divine elements. The prodigies were very knowledgeable, and a few of them also possessed a divine element. Those who possessed the divine elements were warned by their respective divine elements as well, and told that Duan Ling Tian was not someone they could afford to provoke. It's the 5 divine elements' energies. His divine elements aren't any weaker than I am. It's impossible for his chaos divine earth to devour me, but with the help of the other divine elements, I stand no chance at all. Remember, don't provoke him. If you do, I won't help you. I can't afford to provoke him. To be precise, I can't afford to provoke his 5 divine elements. If it's not necessary, don't provoke him. The fact that 5 divine elements chose him as their host shows how talented he is. If there's no accident, it's likely that the Crimson Demon will choose him in the end. What a pity that such an outstanding prodigy is going to be possessed. If the Crimson Demon possesses him, the Crimson Demon might be able to achieve much more than he was able to in his original body. I wonder if that prodigy will meet the Crimson Demon's other requirements. There's no need to feel dissatisfied. It's definitely not a good thing to be possessed by the Crimson Demon. However, it's also a fact that you're nowhere as talented as he is. At least, I won't coexist with another divine element in your body. It won't be easy to find a host with your talent, but it's not impossible. Not everyone is a peerless prodigy like him.